Yuna checked out a towering stack of books from the school library. The librarian joked that she might finish the entire collection before graduation. But before Yuna left, one detail caught her attention. She was only the second highest borrower in her grade. First place belonged to a boy named Jaehyun. Curious, Yuna found him and asked about his class rank. 267th, he said. There were exactly 267 students in their grade. Suddenly, Jaehyun became hard for her to ignore. Jaehyun recognized her too. This was already the second time he had seen her. At the entrance ceremony, Yuna had been publicly praised as the top incoming student. After receiving her certificate, she walked off the stage coldly, leaving many male students staring at her. When Jaehyun noticed Yuna looking his way, he flashed what he thought was a charming smile. Yuna only threw him one cold line. "What are you looking at?" That one line destroyed Jaehyun's confidence on the spot. The next day, Yuna was carrying materials to her homeroom teacher. That was when she saw Jaehyun being punished in the office. Yuna immediately decided she would never get involved with someone like him. The teacher suggested that Yuna join a documentary about the school's top student and the last place student. Yuna and Jaehyun would have to spend 1 month together. Yuna did not care much about the documentary itself. What she cared about was whether it paid. Once Yuna heard there would be payment, she glanced at Jaehyun again and left. Jaehyun got back to his family snack shop. His mother, Minju, and his father, Juwon, also tried to talk him into joining the documentary. At first, Jaehyun tried to use studying as his excuse for refusing. The real reason was Yuna. To him, she seemed strange and hard to deal with. Soon, Jaehyun was moved into Yuna's class and seated right beside her. Once filming began, Yuna and Jaehyun fought over everything, starting with the line between their desks. Lunch, gym class, and study hall all became new battlegrounds. One day, a rice cake stained someone's shirt. Another day, dodgeball turned into revenge. Even a comic book ended up getting caught by the teacher. Before long, their small fights made them the most famous enemies in school. The interviews only made things worse. Jaehyun ranked Yuna with the 3 school subjects he hated most, while Yuna saw him as a troublemaker with no real ability. They kept arguing while describing the documentary as 2 completely different stories. In Yuna's eyes, it was a record of the school's top student saving the last place student. In Jaehyun's eyes, it was more like a test of how much rudeness one top student could get away with. The camera asked where they saw themselves 10 years later. Yuna pictured success, clear goals, and a life moving forward with the people around her. Jaehyun's answer was the complete opposite. He only wanted to do nothing and live quietly. The only thing they agreed on was simple. They never wanted to see each other again. Unexpectedly, the documentary took off, and the views kept climbing. Years later, clips of Yuna and Jaehyun arguing were still being watched again and again. Those clips even returned to the trending videos list. 10 years later, Yuna was far from the life she had once imagined. By then, Yuna had become a project team leader. She was presenting an online promotion strategy to a client. Taehyun, a department head on the client's side, kept interrupting her. Taehyun picked apart Yuna's proposal from every angle, being looked down on like that had never been part of Yuna's life plan. She held back her irritation and continued presenting the proposal. Yuna's plan was straightforward. She wanted to turn Seon Shop itself into the talking point. She also wanted to invite the mysterious artist Inha to paint live at the opening event. After Sujin started collecting Inha's work, more people began paying attention to him. His calm, restrained architectural painting style also fit Seon Shop's brand tone. If the collaboration succeeded, Seon Shop could use the event to attract younger customers. Taehyun asked if Yuna could really bring Inha into the project. Yuna refused to back down and promised that she could. Once Taehyun accepted the proposal and left, her team finally relaxed. Still, they knew she had made a risky promise. Yuna had already made her decision. She had to find Inha, no matter how difficult it was. More than that, she wanted to prove that Taehyun had no reason to look down on her. Her assistant reminded her that almost no one knew what Inha looked like, but Yuna was determined to track him down anyway. After the meeting, Yuna went down to the parking lot, still angry. She tried to leave in a hurry, but the car door would not open. Then Taehyun appeared, and Yuna realized she had been trying to unlock the wrong car. Embarrassed, she apologized and explained that she was still getting used to the company car. Taehyun used the moment to warn her again. He hated empty promises, and since she had promised to bring Inha into the project, she had to make it happen. After he left, Yuna felt even more humiliated. That only made her more determined not to back down. While Yuna was searching for Inha, Jaehyun was already living the quiet life he had always wanted. On the outside, Jaehyun still seemed like someone who did nothing all day. Even his parents did not know how he actually made money. In private, Jaehyun had spent years drawing real streets and buildings. He had already become a mysterious artist who rarely showed his face. Jaehyun's friend Doyeon was helping Juwon film a promotional video for the snack shop, and Minju and Juwon treated him like family. Yuna went to the bar owned by her friend Nahue. Nahue reminded Yuna that this was already the 4th blind date she had dodged. If Yuna skipped it again, Nahue would not let her off easily. Yuna finally agreed to meet the blind date. Yuna continued investigating the mysterious artist Inha and found that he only painted natural landscapes and buildings. The report said Inha liked things that did not change. Because people changed over time, there were no people in his paintings and no objects that would disappear quickly. That detail made Yuna think of someone familiar. She began to suspect that Inha might not be a complete stranger. At work, Yuna's assistant accidentally found the old documentary and called 2 coworkers over to watch it. They laughed about how Yuna and Jaehyun had fought like cats and dogs, until they realized Yuna was standing right behind them and quickly turned the video off. Taeho noticed that Jaehyun's phone was ringing, and the caller was the well-known celebrity Soojin. She liked Inha's paintings and wanted to meet him again. Jaehyun tried to dodge the meeting with a clumsy excuse, but Taeho stopped him, and Jaehyun finally agreed to see Soojin that night. That evening, Yuna went to a cafe in the rain and happened to see Taehyun there too. Her blind date arrived only to complain about the times she had stood him up, then left after coldly saying she was not worth his time. Embarrassed, Yuna asked Taehyun to pretend he had heard nothing, but he still teased her lightly. Meanwhile, Jaehyun waited for Soojin at another cafe, only to receive a message that their meeting would be delayed. As Yuna stayed and drank with Taehyun, she slowly relaxed, and after mixing soju with red wine, her self-control started to slip. The next day, Doyeon went to work at the TV station. Years earlier, Yoojun had filmed the original student documentary. Now, he called Doyeon into a meeting room and pulled out the old footage. The video still had power. It showed the top student and the last place student clashing in front of the camera. To Yoojun, a 10-year follow-up had obvious appeal. Viewers would want to know what had happened to Yuna and Jaehyun. Since Doyeon knew both of them personally, Yoojun wanted him to take charge of the project. Doyeon quickly told Yoojun to give up on the idea. Yuna and Jaehyun were not ordinary exes. They had dated for 5 years, and by the time it ended, they had hurt each other too deeply to face each other easily. Their relationship had never started quietly. It began with constant fighting. Back then, they argued so much that somehow, the two enemies ended up dating. When they were together, Yuna often put Jaehyun through different tests. Yuna said she had gotten into college, gone on a blind date, or gone abroad as an exchange student. Whenever she said something like that, Jaehyun immediately thought about following her. But he still could not say the words Yuna wanted to hear most. Yuna once asked what would happen if they really broke up. Jaehyun answered seriously that he would never be the one to bring it up first. If Yuna really dumped him, Jaehyun said he would disappear completely. Right after that, Yuna really broke up with him. She said if Jaehyun refused to say it first, then she would be the one to end it. The only thing Jaehyun managed to say was that the clothes she was wearing had been bought by him. After hearing that, Yuna threw the clothes back to Jaehyun. That ended their relationship of more than 5 years. The next morning, Jaehyun heard the doorbell and went to open the door. He never expected to see Yuna, the person he least wanted to see. Jaehyun slammed the door shut as soon as he saw Yuna. A moment later, he came back with a spray bottle and aimed it at her face. Yuna barely flinched. "Aren't you going to throw salt too?" she asked. Inside, the tension only got worse. She avoided his eyes and reached into her bag. Jaehyun thought she was about to pull out a wedding invitation. Instead, she placed a painting in front of him. She was almost certain now. Jaehyun was Inha. Every place in those paintings was a street or building Jaehyun had often visited before. Someone who knew Jaehyun well would recognize those places at a glance. More importantly, Inha had once told the media that he did not paint people. Jaehyun had said something similar to Yuna before. The blurry photo, released by Soojin's manager, gave Yuna the final clue. Yuna pushed aside her personal feelings and explained that she was not there as his ex-girlfriend. She had come to discuss a collaboration with Inha. She hoped Inha could do a live painting event for the opening of Sewn Shop. Jaehyun refused coldly, without even hearing the conditions. Yuna could not hold back anymore. She asked whether he was refusing only because she was the one who had come. Jaehyun did not deny it. 5 years had passed, and Jaehyun still remembered saying he would never see Yuna again. Now Yuna was standing right in front of him. Before the argument could go any further, Taeho came out and recognized her. Taeho thought he might still be half asleep. He was seeing Jaehyun and Yuna together again this early in the morning. Jaehyun asked Yuna to leave. Suddenly, the doorbell rang again. Taeho went to open the door and saw Sujin standing outside. Taeho was so shocked that he immediately closed the door, thinking he had seen wrong. Jaehyun went out to open the door and was also surprised that Sujin had shown up without telling him first. After Sujin walked inside, she mistakenly thought Yuna and Taeho were both Jaehyun's employees. Yuna left soon after. Right after Yuna finished complaining about how badly she had been rejected, Jaehyun opened the door again. Jaehyun started throwing salt, just as he had promised 5 years earlier. He said coldly, sending away the evil spirit. Sujin went to Jaehyun's studio and asked him to paint a picture for her. Jaehyun said he did not paint people, so Sujin suggested that he paint her building instead. Sujin said Jaehyun's architectural paintings gave her a sense of calm in her exhausting life. She also said she truly liked his work. Jaehyun only said he would think about it. Sujin saw that Jaehyun's mind was elsewhere and realized his attention was still on Yuna. Then Sujin left. While Doyeon was filming a promotional video for Jaehyun's family snack shop, he noticed Yuna walking through the alley. She was still thinking about Taeyeon's warning and wondering if she should swallow her pride to ask Jaehyun again. Just then, a car sped past, and Doyeon pulled her back before she got hurt. Once Yuna recognized him, she complained that she had come to meet the famous Inha, only to be humiliated by him. Doyeon did not comfort her right away. Instead, he asked if Jaehyun had really sprayed water on her and thrown salt at her. He even revealed that Jaehyun had practiced the move on Taeho more than 50 times. Yuna was angry and embarrassed, but she kept insisting that she had only come for work. She refused to admit that she had ever wanted to work with that lunatic. Jaehyun also began wondering whether throwing salt at Yuna had gone a little too far. That night, while having dinner with her grandmother Soyeon, Yuna mentioned that people had been giving her a hard time lately. Soyeon immediately stood up for Yuna. Elsewhere, Nahue tried to learn business tips from Juwon, but Taeho quickly saw through the truth. Her bar was empty. Doyeon went to see Jaehyun and said he had run into Yuna outside the alley earlier. That was the same Yuna Jaehyun had thrown salt at that morning. Doyeon asked whether Jaehyun had been in his right mind, even as a bystander. Doyeon felt embarrassed for him. Jaehyun said he did not know what he had been thinking when he saw Yuna. After that, Jaehyun told Doyeon to go home. The next morning, Soyeon again reminded Yuna not to let people bully her. Yuna went to the company with confidence. She was determined to tell Jaemin that she could not find Inha and would offer a better plan instead. But Yuna saw Jaemin and Taeyeon walking out together. Before Yuna could speak, Taeyeon asked her to visit the trial opening site of Sewn Shop with him. While waiting for the elevator, Yuna cautiously asked Taeyeon whether he had gotten home safely that night. In Taeyeon's car, Yuna slowly remembered how badly she had lost control the night before. She had gotten so drunk that she sat on the roadside and cried loudly. She had also mistaken Taeyeon for a car thief and insulted his character in front of the hired driver. Even worse, she had called Taeyeon a vicious department head right to his face, like she was in a TV drama. After sobering up, Yuna could only lower her head and apologize. Taeyeon did not keep pressing the matter. He only reminded Yuna that the real way to fix the problem was to make the Inha collaboration happen. That made Yuna even more uneasy. Back at Jaehyun's place, Taeho held the project proposal Yuna had left behind. Taeho could not understand why Jaehyun had rejected the Sewn Shop collaboration. Sewn Shop was a multi-brand store that had already opened in London and Paris. Now it was coming to Korea for the first time. To Taeho, this was a perfect opportunity that had landed right in Jaehyun's lap. Taeho urged Jaehyun to contact Yuna quickly and say he was willing to collaborate. Jaehyun looked at the proposal and clearly regretted his refusal, yet he still said he would not do it. Taeho found out that Sewn Shop's trial opening was that day and dragged Jaehyun there to see the store in person. At the site, Jaehyun saw Yuna and Taeyeon working together and looked noticeably uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Sujin realized Jaehyun had read her message without replying. so she finally decided to go find him herself. While Yuna and Taeyun were waiting for the elevator together, Yuna forced herself to report the truth. She could not move forward with the Inha collaboration for now. Yuna said she would come up with a more effective replacement plan as soon as possible. Taeyun reminded Yuna that last night she had called him a cold-blooded department head. He also reminded her that outside her home, she had already revealed she had found Inha. Yuna had already confirmed that Inha was Jaehyun. She just could not get past having to ask her ex-boyfriend for help 5 years after their breakup. When Taeyun saw Jaehyun arrive, he pointed out that Inha was already there. Yuna's personal relationship with Jaehyun could have made the project hard to move forward. If it did, the company could assign someone else to take over. Taeyun put the choice back in Yuna's hands and told her to think it through herself. When the elevator doors opened, Yuna and Jaehyun faced each other again and stepped inside together. Suddenly, the elevator stopped because of maintenance. Yuna asked Jaehyun why he had come. Jaehyun said he had read the proposal inside the elevator. Yuna called Jaehyun childish for practicing the water and salt routine after all these years. Jaehyun fired back that Yuna always used work as an excuse to get close to him. He also warned her that if he got serious, she might not be able to handle it. Once the elevator maintenance ended, Jaehyun walked out first. Later, Sujin called out to Jaehyun from her car and asked why he had been ignoring her messages when his phone was clearly beside him. Jaehyun said he had wanted to think before replying, but Sujin only warned him not to ignore her again before returning to her busy schedule. Haeun caught Doyeon watching Yuna and Jaehyun's documentary again. She pointed out that he kept saying he would pass on the project, but he still could not look away. To Haeun, the documentary felt clumsy but fresh, and it carried a strong sense of youth. That nostalgia was exactly what made viewers come back to it. Doyeon argued that Yuna and Jaehyun had spent the whole documentary fighting. Haeun suggested that he look at the raw footage. Doyeon brushed it off, saying he did not have time. Later, Doyeon still walked into the editing room, found the original tapes, and played them. At first, he only meant to skim through them, but then he saw the clips left out of the final cut. Yuna and Jaehyun had gone from disliking each other to slowly getting closer. Even when the camera was not focused on them, they looked genuinely happy. Those scenes showed Doyeon that the documentary had never been only about their arguments. It had captured the most vivid, awkward summer of their 19-year-old lives. So Doyeon called Yoojun and said, "Let me film this documentary." After the old video went viral again, Taeho used an alternate account to defend Jaehyun. Somehow, he ended up arguing with Nahue in the comments. Jaehyun began reconsidering the live painting event for Seon Shop. Yuna also admitted to Nahue that because of work, she had to find Jaehyun again. She realized that the lazy boy from back then had actually made something of himself. Then Yuna received a call from Doyeon, inviting her to join the documentary. Sujin watched Jaehyun's old clips with obvious excitement and found him fascinating. When Jaehyun called, she immediately paused her shoot to answer. Jaehyun explained that he had always drawn only what he wanted, so before deciding whether to accept her request, he needed to see the buildings in person. Sujin happily told him to call her again as soon as possible. While Jaehyun and Taeho were pulling weeds, Doyeon came over and brought up the new documentary again. The old video had gone viral, and the comments were full of viewers wondering what had happened to Yuna and Jaehyun 10 years later. Jaehyun refused as soon as he heard Yuna had also been contacted, especially after learning she had cursed Doyeon out over the proposal. Later, Doyeon caught Jaehyun secretly rewatching the old clips and enjoying the comments that called him cute. The moment Doyeon mentioned the documentary again, Jaehyun closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep. After Jaehyun left, Taeho told Doyeon what Jaehyun had been like right after the breakup with Yuna. Back then, Jaehyun deliberately turned himself into the kind of person Yuna hated most. He drank, skipped class, and acted as if he had lost control. Taeho tried everything to pull him back together, from distracting him to pushing him to exercise. Later, when Jaehyun locked himself in his room, Taeho finally discovered that he had been painting countless landscapes. Because of that, Taeho could not help wondering whether bringing Yuna back into Jaehyun's life would be too cruel. Around the same time, Yuna hesitated for a long time before finally opening the old documentary again. Watching her younger self and Jaehyun bicker on screen, she realized that some parts of them had not changed at all, even though Jaehyun had somehow become famous. In separate places, both of them stopped at the same comment. They were so young and immature, just like one summer. Jaehyun threw his phone aside and blamed Doyeon for making him open those videos again. Out of spite, Yoona decided to stop trying to work with Jaehyun. She changed the proposal's collaborating artist from Inha to Sayan, but Yoona and Jaehyun were not done crossing paths. Over the next few days, they kept running into each other in the neighborhood, by a car window, in a taxi, and at the supermarket. Every accidental meeting felt awkward and tense. Jaehyun finally asked why someone he had not seen in 5 years was suddenly everywhere. Yoona coldly reminded him that this area was near her home too. If he really did not want to see her, he could move away. Jaehyun thought Yoona kept showing up near him because of the painting project, but Yoona told him she had already invited Sayan. Jaehyun immediately said Sayan was only copying his painting style. Yoona said she thought Sayan's paintings looked much better. After saying that, she turned and left. On her way out, she kicked Jaehyun's things into the middle of the road too. At work the next day, Jaemin told Yoona that Sewn Shop would cancel the contract if they switched to Sayan. Yoona had already found Inha, so Jaemin could not understand why she would suddenly change artists. Yoona also knew this project was extremely important to the company. Everyone at the company was waiting for her to deliver results. Hearing that, Yoona could only sigh. Doyeon tried again with Yoona, hoping she would join the new documentary. Yoona still refused. She even said she had only taken part back then because of the payment, but Doyeon reminded her that the old documentary had preserved something more important than a small paycheck. It had kept a version of her and Jaehyun that neither of them could return to. That was why he had decided to film them again. Even so, Yoona still refused. Since Yoona still refused, Doyeon turned his hopes toward Jaehyun. Jaehyun and Taeho ate and drank together. Jaehyun made up his mind that he could not let Yoona work with Sayan instead. Taeho advised him to simply work with Yoona, but Jaehyun insisted that he would only do things Yoona hated. He soon came up with a plan and told Taeho to handle it for him the next day. Soojin waited a long time for Jaehyun to contact her. Since he never did, she searched for updates about him on social media. Seeing Jaehyun eating, drinking, and living freely with Taeho only made Soojin feel worse. She could not help liking the photo. But when Soojin turned back and looked at Jaehyun's painting, she found a brief moment of comfort in its quietness. Later, a slightly drunk Jaehyun ran into Yoona again by the vending machine. The coincidence only made him more irritated, while Yoona became even more annoyed by his drunken state. Jaehyun suddenly remembered the last time he had gone to see Yoona 5 years ago. That day, he had asked Yoona whether he was the easiest thing in her life to throw away. Yoona coldly answered that the only thing she could throw away was him. To Jaehyun, that sentence made it feel as if Yoona had ruined his life. Back in the present, Jaehyun instinctively grabbed Yoona's hand, but he quickly let go. All he could do was stand there and watch her leave. After the breakup, Yoona appeared to live as usual. She went to the library and went to work. To other people, it looked as if nothing had happened. But once Yoona got home, she shut herself in the bathroom and turned the faucet all the way up. Only then did she let out the pain she had been holding in, still carrying the weight of what had happened. Yoona returned to work the next day. Jaemin welcomed her happily, and a team member told her that Inha's manager had come by earlier. The manager said Yoona and Inha had gone to high school together. Inha was willing to join the Sewn Shop project, but only if Yoona met him in person. Yoona immediately understood that she could not avoid Jaehyun after all, so she said she needed to go find someone. Taeho brought the contract back and told Jaehyun that Yoona had not been at the company. Soon after, he noticed that Soojin had liked a photo of him and Jaehyun online, but before he could think too much about it, the doorbell rang. Jaehyun seemed to know exactly who had come. Outside Jaehyun's door, Yoona remembered what Doyeon had once told her. Jaehyun was not just someone who held grudges. He was the kind of person who could suffer himself if it meant making someone he hated suffer too. When Jaehyun opened the door with a smug look, Yoona sensed that something was wrong. Sure enough, Jaehyun agreed to join the Sewn Shop project, but he attached a condition that was aimed directly at Yoona. She had to film the new documentary with him for a full month. The next day, Yoona and Jaehyun began giving Doyeon their conditions for joining the documentary. They started arguing again, just like they had back in high school. Doyeon noticed that Yoona had proposed many strict conditions. They were all meant to protect her private life during filming. Jaehyun only gave a short list. Do not make him tired. Do not bother him. Doyeon promised he would do his best to satisfy both of their wishes. Yoona said her life was boring, and Doyeon could not film her while she was working. Doyen said he had already discussed it with Yuna's boss, Jae-min. Jae-min was interested because the documentary could help promote the project. Yuna warned Doyen that everything would be very boring. Doyen said he knew how to make it a little more interesting. With that, Yuna and Jaehyun left. Once the new documentary began filming, the cameras recorded Yuna's strict work routine and Jaehyun's usual days of sleeping and painting. The footage was so ordinary that even with everyone around them trying to appear on camera, Doyen and Haeun still had almost nothing usable. Jaehyun walked into the living room and realized no one was filming him. He lay down and enjoyed the freedom. Because of his insomnia, reality and dreams sometimes blurred together for him. When he saw Yuna in front of him, he thought it was only a dream, but when he touched Yuna's hair, he realized she was really there. Yuna said Doyen had told her to come. Jaehyun felt too embarrassed, so he invited Yuna downstairs to look at his paintings. After Yuna entered the studio, she slipped back into her old tone and teased Jaehyun. She said that back then he barely studied and only cared about drawing. If she had not tutored him, he would not have gotten into college. Then she saw a painting of their old high school. She remembered that back then, she had once caused one of Jaehyun's lines to go crooked. To make up for the mistake, she secretly brought correction fluid the next day to cover that line. But it only made the painting worse. Jaehyun snatched the painting back and finally lost control. He said Yuna had not only ruined the painting, she had also made a mess of his life. His words hurt her, and Yuna asked what exactly she had ruined. As far as she could see, Jaehyun was successful now. Since they had agreed to film the documentary together, she thought they should at least try to get along. But neither of them was willing to give in. In the end, they could only separate awkwardly in front of the camera. When they sat down again, Yuna and Jaehyun avoided each other and refused to make eye contact. So Yuna asked to leave first. Jaehyun began regretting that he had agreed to film the documentary. The next day, the marketing team held a meeting with Seon Shop. The cameras recorded the whole process. Taehyun hoped the documentary could better promote the project. He also suggested holding a meeting with Inha. After the meeting ended, Taehyun invited everyone to the opening celebration. He also asked Yuna to attend. Taeho was watching Sayan's interview. Jaehyun walked in and asked why Taeho was staring at that unlucky guy's face so early in the morning. During the interview, the host mentioned that some people had questioned whether Sayan had copied Inha. The host asked Sayan for his opinion. Sayan turned the accusation around and claimed he was the one who had inspired Inha. After Taeho heard that, he immediately said he would call a reporter to clear things up. But Jaehyun did not take Sayan's provocation seriously. He walked away coldly. Doyen noticed that Jaehyun's reaction seemed unusual. At the same time, a member of Yuna's team brought her the same article. The article questioned whether Inha had copied someone else. Yuna agreed to handle the matter. She also emphasized that there was absolutely no plagiarism. Meanwhile, Taeho asked Doyen whether Jaehyun and Sayan had known each other before. Doyen said he was not too sure either. Taeho went downstairs and told Jaehyun that he had to attend the Seon Shop project meeting the next day. What if people started believing Jaehyun had copied someone? But Jaehyun still decided to attend the meeting. Jaehyun was quietly looking forward to something, because Yuna had not called to ask him about the plagiarism issue. Yuna was working overtime on a report to prove that Jaehyun had not copied Sayan's painting. On the day of the meeting, Doyen had already arrived outside the building where Seon Shop was located. Taeho notified him that he would be late, so Doyen went in first. Yuna's 3 team members were talking among themselves. They were saying Taehyun seemed to like Yuna. While one assistant was walking around, she happened to run into Inha. When Jaehyun entered the company, the first person he met was Yuna. As Jaehyun walked into the meeting room with Taehyun, he remembered what he had just heard from the employees. They had been talking about Taehyun liking Yuna. His expression darkened. Then Taehyun asked Jaehyun directly whether he had copied someone else's painting. This issue could affect the entire project. Jaehyun denied it outright. Taehyun continued asking how he planned to prove it. Jaehyun only said that since he had not copied anything, no one could produce real evidence. Taehyun invited Jaehyun to attend the Seon Shop opening celebration that Friday. Jaehyun said he would think about it. But when he learned that Yuna would also attend the celebration, Jaehyun immediately agreed to go. On the way back, Jaehyun asked Taeho what he should wear to a high-end party. Taeho's answer did not help at all, so Jaehyun said he needed to go somewhere. He also told Doyen not to follow him because it was a private matter. For the Seon Shop celebration, Jaehyun wanted to ask Yuna what to wear, but in the end, he turned to Sujin, who knew more about formal events. Sujin helped him choose an outfit, and told him she believed he had not copied anyone. Meanwhile, Yuna kept rewriting a message to comfort him, changing it from, "I know you didn't copy anyone," to "I believe you," but in the end, she sent nothing. The next morning, Jaehyun stepped out in a completely different outfit, looking unusually polished. Taeho was caught off guard by his new look. At the event hall, Yuna was also preparing tensely for the opening celebration, only to run into Jaehyun. Taehyun came over to greet Yuna. He led her away to meet the VIP guests, and Jaehyun clearly did not like it. Doyeon was there too, filming footage for the documentary. Doyeon could tell Jaehyun would not give him any useful footage, so he turned his attention to Yuna instead. That was when Sion appeared and greeted Jaehyun. Jaehyun was about to leave, but Sion stopped him with a question. "Do you still hate me like you used to?" Jaehyun said he had once pitied Sion, but he would not do that anymore. Sion asked why Jaehyun had not posted anything to refute the plagiarism issue. Jaehyun answered, "You're not worth fighting with." Before Jaehyun could leave, Sion deliberately mentioned one more thing. He had also been invited to join the Sewn Shop project. Nearby, Yuna's team was already discussing the publicity angle. Two artists, one plagiarism rumor, one stage. To them, it was the perfect way to draw attention. Jaehyun heard enough to understand the plan. His conflict with Sion was being turned into a marketing stunt. This was not just business to him. It was his work, his pain, and his reputation. Worse, he thought Yuna had known about it from the start. Yuna looked stunned, but Jaehyun was too hurt to see it. Before he left, he gave her one final blow. "You've always been ruining my life." Jaehyun turned and walked away. When Jaehyun was little, Doyeon often saw how lively Jaehyun's family was, while his own home was usually empty. That was how the two lonely boys slowly became close, and over time, Doyeon became almost part of Jaehyun's family. In high school, Doyeon noticed Yuna first and quietly liked her, but he also saw how Jaehyun changed whenever she appeared, just as he had seen how Jaehyun disappeared into his own world whenever he drew. When Yuna and Jaehyun eventually started dating, Doyeon chose to bury his feelings. After their breakup, when Jaehyun fell apart, Doyeon stayed by his side. Yuna asked Taehyun why Sion was joining the project. She had already sent Taehyun the materials proving that Jaehyun had not plagiarized. Taehyun said it was meant to create buzz. Yuna said that violated the contract. It also showed no respect for Inha. Taehyun said Yuna had truly disappointed him. He had thought Yuna was similar to him. He had not expected her to be someone who could not separate personal matters from work. Yuna demanded that Taehyun apologize to Inha in person. To Yuna, Taehyun had disrespected both Inha and art itself. After Yuna returned home, she found out that her grandmother had argued with an old friend. Because of her pride, her grandmother refused to apologize. That reminded Yuna of the past, when she and Jaehyun had argued. Jaehyun had always been the one to apologize first and give her a way out. Yuna also admitted that she rarely apologized. She was afraid that once she apologized first, people would look down on her. Back then, Jaehyun had always backed down. If she gave him even one simple apology, he was willing to be the one who gave in first again. Back in her room, Yuna figured Jaehyun must still be angry with her. She wanted to call him, but she hesitated for a long time. Jaehyun was absorbed in drawing and ignored the ringing phone. He kept taking medicine, trying to force himself to sleep. The next day, Yuna packed her things and set out to apologize to Jaehyun. At least, that was what she told herself. She still could not say she had done anything wrong. In her mind, Jaehyun had misunderstood her and blamed her unfairly. On the way there, she kept trying to call him. Each unanswered ring made her more defensive. She told herself it was not her fault, but his words kept coming back to her. He had said she was destroying his life. By the time he ignored another call, her courage had turned into anger. She stopped walking and told herself she was not going after all. Just then, Nahue waved her over and stopped her. Across town, Taeho urged Jaehyun to reconsider the Sewn Shop project. If Jaehyun worked with Sion, he could face him directly and let the plagiarism rumors collapse on their own. But after Taeho left, Doyeon noticed what Jaehyun was really doing. He was waiting for Yuna's call. Doyeon also understood that Jaehyun had not yelled at Yuna the day before because of work. He knew Yuna had not planned the Sion situation. Jaehyun had taken all the resentment he had been carrying and dumped it on Yuna. Jaehyun still cared. He still could not let go. Nahue used something at the shop as an excuse to keep Yuna there. The film crew also called Jaehyun and Taeho over. Filming forced Jaehyun and Yuna into the same space again. They finally had a chance to face the awkwardness from the event party. Yuna quietly pushed herself to apologize first. She no longer wanted to be as childish as before. But just as Yuna was about to speak, Jaehyun spoke first. He apologized for the hurtful things he had said at the party the night before. He also admitted that Yuna had done nothing wrong in that matter. Yuna promised she would change the proposal back to its original version. But Jaehyun told her he had already promised Taehyun that he would complete the project with Sayan. Yuna immediately asked whether Taehyun had apologized to him. She also reminded Jaehyun that if he was unhappy, he could make things clear to Taehyun directly. But Jaehyun only said calmly that he knew what he should do. There was only 1 week left before the opening event. He would prepare properly. He would also do his best to complete the 1-month documentary he had already agreed to. This time, Jaehyun sounded calmer and more mature than before. He hoped they could get through this matter smoothly together. That answer surprised Yuna even more. The Jaehyun in front of her suddenly felt unfamiliar. Then, Nahue boldly asked how long Yuna and Jaehyun had been broken up, making both of them uncomfortable. Taeho immediately jumped in to say that Jaehyun was now extremely successful enough for Yuna to come asking for a collaboration. The room fell into awkward silence, and Taeho and Nahue quickly stepped away, leaving the former couple alone. Jaehyun calmly told Haeun she could ask her questions. Haeun asked how the two of them felt about filming a documentary together again. Jaehyun answered calmly that he was happy to see Yuna again. In the old video, he admitted neither of them had been gentle with the other. The answer confused Yuna, but she eventually gave the same response. She was happy, and she was surprised too. The next day, Yuna arrived at the company. Her staff reported that Inha had already sent over his concept for the collaborative work. For the Sewn Shop project, Jaehyun promised to complete 100 hours of drawing. That included 5 hours of public live drawing. From that day on, he was practically glued to the drawing table. Once he sat down, he stayed there for hours. Yuna was busy preparing for the event, but she could not help worrying about his health. Her assistant also reminded her that Inha might not have slept well or eaten properly for a long time. Yuna said she did not want to contact him. She said one thing, but her actions gave her away. By the time she realized it, she was already standing outside Jaehyun's house. She was carrying a thermos filled with red date tea. After hesitating for a while, Yuna pressed the doorbell. But there was no response from inside, so Yuna pushed the door open and went in. She kept knocking on the studio door, but after a long time, no one came to open it. Just as she called his name, Jaehyun walked out. Yuna explained that she had only come to check Inha's work progress. She also described the red date tea as a company-arranged show of concern. Jaehyun told her he had already reached his 95th hour of drawing. The next day, he would draw live in front of the public. Yuna urged him to drink some tea and get a good night's sleep. After confirming that he was okay, she prepared to leave. But Jaehyun suddenly grabbed her hand. He asked if she wanted to stay for the night. That one sentence pulled Yuna straight back into the past. It also made her remember why she had needed to break up with Jaehyun back then. Yuna had always kept herself cold because poverty had taught her to feel inferior from an early age. In high school, she had once heard classmates talking behind her back. They said she ate other people's food for free. After that, Yuna no longer accepted anyone's kindness easily. She also could not bring herself to be generous toward others. But Jaehyun slowly changed her. He would eat with her. She would force him to study. When she was at her most exhausted, he would approach her in his clumsy way. But after they entered college, reality closed in on Yuna step by step. Her uncle wanted to take away the home she shared with her grandmother. Her grandmother was suddenly hospitalized. The medical bills weighed on Yuna like a mountain. Around that same time, Yuna heard that Jaehyun had turned down a very good chance to study abroad. Jaehyun said he did not want to force himself to become successful. He wanted to leave the opportunity to someone who needed it more. But at that time, those words felt like a painful reminder to Yuna. She felt as if she was dragging Jaehyun into the same exhausting life. The more she loved him, the more afraid she became of turning into his burden. So when Jaehyun pressed her for the reason behind the breakup, Yuna explained nothing. She simply left, carrying all that shame and insecurity with her. Back in the present, Jaehyun woke up on the sofa. He asked himself why he was there. His last clear memory was from the studio the night before. He remembered seeing the thermos on the table. He also remembered hearing sounds coming from the kitchen. Then Jaehyun saw Taeho and was startled. Taeho said he was worried Jaehyun still had not slept by morning, so he came to check on him. Jaehyun woke up, confused. He had slept better than he had in a long time, and that bothered him. He remembered Yuna coming over with a thermos. After that, everything was blurry. The missing pieces left him uneasy. Across town, Yuna was having breakfast with her grandmother, Soyeon. Soyeon casually mentioned that she wanted a part-time job. Life had started to feel too quiet. Yuna worried it would be too much for her, but Soyeon would not back down. In the end, Yuna only asked her to choose something easy. Minju and Juan learned that their son would be drawing in public. They dressed up for the occasion and went to the venue. At the venue, Yuna was having a pre-event meeting with her coworkers. A coworker asked Yuna if she knew when Inha would arrive. That question pulled Yuna back to the night before. In that memory, the exhausted Jaehyun had leaned on Yuna's shoulder. He had also asked whether she wanted to stay there for the night. Yuna snapped out of the memory and told her coworkers to hurry with the event preparations. She said she was going to the second floor to organize a few things. Before the exhibition, Doyeon interviewed Jaehyun about his career plans and future goals, but Jaehyun's answers felt empty. He had no clear goal and could not explain what had made him start drawing. To Doyeon, that blankness seemed real, while Taeho could tell Jaehyun's insomnia and low mood had worsened since Yuna returned. In the end, this project was still tied to her. Before long, Taeho drove to the venue. He told Jaehyun to go in first while he parked the car. Not long after, Jaehyun opened the door to the waiting room. Unexpectedly, he saw Yuna sleeping soundly on the sofa. At first, he planned to leave, but after looking at Yuna's face, Jaehyun gently sat down in the chair across from her. He kept looking at Yuna's quiet, sleeping face. A while later, he saw that Yuna seemed about to wake up. He immediately panicked. He pretended he had only just arrived and was about to stand up. He sat down awkwardly and asked about the night before. "Did you come to my house to find me?" That question made Yuna panic. She answered vaguely. She used the excuse that she was very busy before the exhibition and left. But before leaving, she still turned back and said 2 words to Jaehyun. "Good luck." Yuna arrived at the final rehearsal site before the event. She saw Jaehyun on the video feed, focused on drawing. That image made Yuna freeze. She had never seen Jaehyun like this before. In the waiting room, Taeho worried that Jaehyun was nervous before the performance. But Jaehyun only murmured, "Why did I sleep so well last night?" He could not stop thinking about that simple, unfamiliar feeling. Soon, it was time for the performance. Cyan walked onto the stage first and mocked the setup, saying Inha was drawing in the room next door if anyone wanted to watch. Jaehyun said nothing. He simply walked to his position and began drawing with traditional pen and paper, standing in sharp contrast to Cyan's flashy use of technology. Yuna watched Jaehyun from a distance and was drawn in without realizing it. Doyeon came closer and asked if this was her first time seeing Jaehyun like this. Yuna smiled and answered, "This side of Jaehyun really is different." Right after saying that, she asked Doyeon why he was standing there instead of working. Doyeon smiled and said he was there to help her work. Later, Yuna accepted an interview. She honestly said she had never imagined she would one day work with someone who used to rank at the very bottom of the class. When she and Jaehyun worked together, they still fought like cats and dogs. She needed Jaehyun to share his progress, but Jaehyun always refused to say even one extra word. In the past, when Yuna asked what he was thinking, Jaehyun would only say he did not know, or he would say he was not thinking about anything. Because of that, the Jaehyun on stage felt both unfamiliar and interesting to Yuna. Afterward, she worried that she had said too much. She reminded Doyeon to remember to cut it out. Only 2 hours were left before Jaehyun completed 100 hours of drawing. Yuna asked Taeho if Jaehyun was really not planning to rest. Taeho answered that this was how Jaehyun usually drew. Yuna said today was different because so many people were watching. So Taeho went to ask Jaehyun. Minju and Juwon planned to leave first. They happened to run into Yuna. They spoke with her for a while. Yuna carefully asked if they were leaving because the program was too long. Minju and Juwon said seeing their son draw like that made their hearts ache a little. It also reminded them of how Jaehyun used to curl up alone when he was young. After saying this, Minju and Juwon prepared to leave. Minju still turned back to say one last thing to Yuna. She said, "When you two broke up, Jaehyun suffered a lot. If you have time, come by our house for a meal." Yuna nodded and agreed. Then Yuna looked at Jaehyun on stage with a serious expression. Jaehyun rested and drank water. When he looked up, he found Yuna looking at him. Once Yuna realized she had been caught, she quickly ran off. Exhausted, Yuna went into the waiting room and locked the door behind her. She thought of what Minju had just said. She also thought of how Jaehyun had tightly grabbed her hand the night before and leaned against her. The night before, Yuna had kept asking him about his long-term insomnia. She asked why he had to take sleeping pills. Jaehyun lowered his head and collapsed onto the sofa. He slept very deeply. Only a few minutes remained before Jaehyun reached the full 100 hours. By then, Jaehyun had only spent a few minutes introducing himself. After he finished, he looked for Yuna and tried to walk toward her. Sujin stepped directly into his path. When the reporters saw Sujin arrive with flowers, they crowded around them and kept snapping photos. Yuna stood outside the crowd and watched in silence. Jaehyun looked toward her with an apologetic look. Later, as Jaehyun was leaving, Sujin waited by the car to congratulate him. She said that after today, both Inha's name and her own might be all over the news. Sujin worried she might cause trouble for him. She offered to drive Jaehyun if he did not have a ride. Jaehyun politely turned her down, saying he had come with his assistant. Sujin looked disappointed, but she did not push him. She simply said goodbye. Yuna skipped the celebration dinner after the event. Instead, she went to Nahue's bar alone. She talked as she drank. She said the Jaehyun she saw that day felt like a completely different person. He had changed so much while she had been stuck, dealing with daily life and money problems. Yuna felt her life was miserable. Nahue saw it differently because she knew how strong Yuna was. Yuna had carried a huge family debt by herself. To Nahue, getting this far was already a major success. When Jaehyun got home, he dropped onto the sofa. He was about to fall asleep when he received a call. Meanwhile, Nahue called Doyeon and asked him to pick up Yuna, who was drunk. Doyeon bought Yuna a hangover drink. After Yuna sobered up a little, she asked how much of the documentary had been filmed. She also said she wanted to see the footage first. But what she really wanted to know was what Jaehyun had said about her. Doyeon studied her for a moment, then asked whether she still liked Jaehyun. Yuna thought about that question the whole way home. She kept denying it to herself. She kept telling herself there was no way she still liked Jaehyun. But the moment she got home and saw Jaehyun waiting by the door, her heart raced. Yuna said she was too tired that day. If it was not urgent, they could talk tomorrow. Right after that, the alcohol hit her again, and she fell into Jaehyun's arms. The night before, Jaehyun had fallen asleep on the sofa. Yuna had seen him frowning. She could not help wanting to walk over and smooth that frown away. But just then, Jaehyun opened his eyes and held her hand. His voice caught as he asked if she really was his Yuna, or if he was dreaming again. That one sentence slowly broke through Yuna's defenses. She cried quietly as she looked at the exhausted man in her arms. In the present, Jaehyun asked whether the thermos she had left at his place was hers. Yuna quietly let out a breath of relief, thinking Jaehyun no longer remembered what had happened the night before. She only explained that she had left the thermos because he looked too tired. Then Yuna turned to leave, but Jaehyun called out to her from behind. He told her he knew it had not been a dream. He also knew she was pretending not to remember. Yuna turned back with red eyes. Jaehyun finally asked the question he had carried for years. Their relationship had never been casual, and neither had their breakup. Now that they had met again, he could not understand why they could not even ask how the other had been. So he asked first. He wanted to know how Yuna had really been. Yuna listened with tears in her eyes, but she could only answer him in her heart. The real reason they had broken up was her pride. Back then, she had believed she could live without him. Early the next morning, Jaehyun woke up in bed and remembered their conversation from the night before. All he felt now was shame. He also regretted saying those words. Meanwhile, the writer Hyejin was questioning Doyeon about the program. Hyejin did not understand what Doyeon was trying to say through the show. The cut was messy, and it had no real hook. Hyejin reminded Doyeon that the tension between Yuna and Jaehyun was impossible to miss. If Doyeon cut it well, that awkwardness alone could become a story that pulled viewers in. Doyeon denied it. Hyejin cut him off and suggested taking over as the writer for the program. She had done the same thing for the program 10 years earlier. As soon as Jaehyun learned that Yuna would also be at the filming party, he panicked and ran. It was an old habit. Whenever Jaehyun felt cornered, he escaped first and dealt with the problem later. As a child, he had even climbed a tree to avoid answering a teacher's question, refusing to come down until the teacher promised not to make him speak. To Jaehyun, running away was not only self-protection, It was also his way of giving the other person time to cool down before they talked again. Even with Yuna, he had always done the same. There had been one exception. Years earlier, Yuna had promised to wear matching couple rings if Jaehyun finished half a marathon. For once, he looked determined enough that Doyeon agreed to train him. But after only one day, Jaehyun gave up, ignored Doyeon's calls, and even started thinking that friendship rings with Doyeon might be easier than couple rings with Yuna. Unlike Jaehyun, Yuna had never believed in escaping. To her, avoiding a problem was just a weak excuse. But after hearing what Jaehyun had said the night before, she avoided the filming site for the first time. Jaehyun disappeared too, leaving the crew confused. No one knew what had happened between them. Jaehyun sat in the park, eating a banana. He tried hard to remember why he had cried in front of Yuna like that the night before. As he raised the banana toward his mouth, it fell before he could eat it. Yuna was also in the park. The same cyclists, who had just passed Jaehyun, now rode toward Yuna. At the TV station, Hyejin saw an opportunity in their disappearance. If Yuna and Jaehyun kept avoiding each other, she suggested sending them somewhere remote and unfamiliar, where they would have no choice but to react honestly. Only then might their relationship finally crack open. Jaehyun walked into the library, only to run into Yuna there too. He was so shocked that his jaw nearly dropped. He could not understand how 3 hours of trying to run away had led him right back to Yuna. Somehow, he had ended up exactly where he started. Jaehyun greeted her stiffly. He felt it was probably the stiffest greeting he had given all year. Yuna stubbornly pretended nothing had happened too, but her actions said the exact opposite. This time, Jaehyun did not run away. He turned back, tried to act natural, and spoke firmly. "Come with me. Let's go eat." But when they reached the door, the library scanner stopped him. He had forgotten to check out the book. Yuna could not help laughing. Then Yuna followed him out. At a charity event, Sujin once again heard people whispering behind her back. The event left her even more drained. Jaehyun brought Yuna back to Minju and Juwon's snack shop to eat. Minju and Juwon lit up as soon as Yuna arrived. They even asked Yuna what she wanted to eat. Yuna said she really missed soybean pulp soup. Hearing that, Minju got up right away to make it. Back at the office, Doyeon reviewed the footage he had filmed of Yuna and Jaehyun. When Yoojun heard that both leads had disappeared, he was not surprised. The same thing had happened 10 years earlier. After only 1 week of filming, Yuna left school early, and Jaehyun skipped class. Yoojun had searched the neighborhood for them, but the two eventually returned as if nothing had happened and continued filming. To Yoojun, this time was no different. Yuna and Jaehyun would face the problem in their own way, then come back when they were ready. Doyeon only had to wait and keep the camera ready. 10 years earlier, Yuna left school early after hearing Jaehyun had skipped class, only to find him hiding in the library. She teased him for skipping class just to read, but when Jaehyun explained the difficult book in his hand and talked about eternal recurrence, Yuna froze. She had not expected the boy she considered foolish to understand something like that. After that, Jaehyun apologized for speaking harshly before, and Yuna smiled faintly before telling him to go eat with her. In the present, Yuna and Jaehyun sat together awkwardly while they ate. Minju and Juwon stood to the side and silently watched them. Juwon was about to bring over another dish. Then he heard his son ask Yuna the question she had avoided the night before. Juwon immediately stepped back. When Jaehyun asked again, Yuna tried to make her life sound ordinary. She had graduated, worked, and made money. Nothing special. At least that was what she wanted him to believe. As for what happened the night before, Yuna said she had only acted that way because she was drunk and had a headache. Then she immediately got up to leave. Minju and Juwon did not want her to go. They hurriedly packed some food for her to take with her. Jaehyun looked at how much his parents cared about Yuna. As they walked, Yuna told Jaehyun to be good to his parents. No one would treat him better than they did. When Jaehyun stayed silent, Yuna tested the waters again. She asked if he was going home and whether they should apologize to Doyeon together tomorrow. Jaehyun finally stopped and said the words he had kept buried in his heart. Every time he faced Yuna, he felt like he turned back into that fool who could only stand there. If she said she was fine, he believed her. If she said it was nothing, he blamed himself for overthinking. Even when she ended their relationship, he had nodded without ever knowing the real reason. Now that she had returned, it felt as if he was being asked to accept her silence all over again. After saying all that, Jaehyun reached a bitter conclusion. Maybe the best defense was not running away. Maybe it was to strike first. So he said something that went against his own heart. He said he was already tired of seeing Yuna in front of him. Around the same time, Sujin had just finished an exhausting charity event. After facing the anti-fan, who had once spread rumors about her online, Sujin finally decided to stop putting up with it. She would no longer withdraw the lawsuit. After the event, Sujin felt even more exhausted, so she called Jaehyun. Jaehyun was also regretting the words he had just forced himself to say to Yuna. Yuna went home too, unable to stop thinking about what Jaehyun had just said. When Yuna saw Soyeon, she handed her the bag of food. Then she rushed out to chase after Jaehyun. At the same time, Jaehyun was waiting for Sujin at the bus stop. When Sujin saw the panic on Jaehyun's face, she seemed to forget all her worries from earlier. Jaehyun and Sujin went to an empty park to talk. When a few children recognized Sujin and asked for autographs, Jaehyun realized again how famous she really was. Sujin then teased him about all the favors he still owed her, from a meal to the architectural drawing he had promised. Jaehyun froze awkwardly. At that moment, Yuna finally found him and saw Sujin wiping ice cream from the corner of his mouth. From where Yuna stood, the gesture looked almost like a kiss. As Yuna stood there in a daze, Doyeon called her from behind. Sujin thought Jaehyun had finally noticed her feelings, but he only offered her a painting as thanks for buying his works. Seeing how slow he was, Sujin finally confessed that she liked him. In the past, his paintings had comforted her when she was sad, but now she wanted to see him in person. After saying that, she left on her own. Doyeon asked Yuna whether she planned to keep filming the documentary. The knowing look on Doyeon's face made Yuna want to tease him. She asked why he understood love so well and whether he had started dating someone recently. Even when Doyeon talked to Yuna about feelings, he still hid behind jokes. With their friends now involved, the relationship between Yuna and Jaehyun became even harder to read. That also made the production team realize something important. If the team kept filming in the usual way, it would be very hard to capture any real emotions. The next morning, Doyeon picked up Yuna, and Taeho forced Jaehyun to come along. 2 cars arrived at a mountain villa, where the new group shoot was about to begin. Jaehyun looked ready to lose his temper. Then he saw Yuna get out of the car. He went quiet and stayed. When the cameras started rolling, Doyeon asked Jaehyun about travel. Had he ever taken a trip he could never forget? The question brought Jaehyun back to a day from years earlier. At the time, he was about to leave for a 6-month exchange program overseas. Yuna had supported his decision, but then she suddenly took him on a day trip without explaining why. Jaehyun spent the whole day thinking she was preparing to say goodbye and break up with him. They ate, took photos, and watched the sunset together. But he could not enjoy any of it. He was too busy trying to guess what Yuna was really thinking. On the bus ride home, Yuna finally said they should go somewhere farther away next time and stay a little longer. Only then did Jaehyun understand that she had never been planning to end things. For the first time, Yuna seriously told him that one day they might argue or even break up, but if Jaehyun ever came back to her, she would do everything she could to hold on to him. When Yuna finally saw him smile, she suddenly felt that she might really love him. Jaehyun listened to the confession in a daze. A sudden warmth rose in his chest. Back in the present, Jaehyun told Doyeon he did not like traveling and had no unforgettable trips. After saying that, Jaehyun glanced at Yuna. When Yuna turned back, he quickly looked away. Later, Jaehyun and Yuna crossed paths in the woods near the shoot location. Yuna asked why he had not run away this time. She also asked whether he really planned to keep filming. Jaehyun nodded. Yuna hesitated, then brought up the word he had used before. She asked whether he could still stay with someone as boring as her. Jaehyun thought of the promise from that trip years ago. He only said vaguely that later on, they had gone farther and stayed together longer. Yuna did not understand what he meant. Jaehyun made his answer even colder, as if both of them were tired of meeting, fighting, and running away. Hurt by his words, Yuna turned and left. She went to the river and stood there alone. Yuna did not know Doyeon was hiding nearby with the camera, silently watching her from behind. After Jaehyun's public appearance, fans even began showing up near his home and Juwon's snack shop, making Juwon finally realize how famous his son had become. Yuna received a message from a co-worker saying the exhibition had succeeded beyond expectations. The public and the media were paying a lot of attention to Inha. Her co-worker also sent her several article links. Yuna paid special attention to one article titled, "The Special Connection Between Inha and Sujin." Reading the article made Yuna uneasy. Doyeon noticed Yuna muttering to herself and walked over to check on her. Haeyeon happened to see them talking and laughing. She slowly put down her phone. At the same time, Sujin told a familiar makeup artist that she had confessed to someone she liked. She pretended to be relaxed, saying Jaehyun probably needed time, but when she called and he did not pick up, she quickly grew restless. Jaehyun prepared his tools and planned to go into the mountains to paint. Before leaving, he reminded Doyeon that it was cold in the mountains, so Doyeon should wear something thicker. But Doyeon said Haeyeon would go with Jaehyun. As Doyeon and Yuna were about to leave, Jaehyun asked, a little too anxiously, what time everyone would be back. The sun set quickly in the mountains, so they had to come back early to stay safe. During filming, Yuna dragged Doyeon into riding bikes with her, forcing him to film while trying to keep up. The two rode through the open air, one ahead and one behind, looking unexpectedly relaxed together. Haeyeon filmed Jaehyun painting, and mentioned that after watching the unreleased footage from 10 years ago, she finally understood how he had fallen for Yuna. Jaehyun immediately asked how she saw him and Yuna now, as someone watching from the outside. Haeyeon refused to give him the answer he wanted, and only said that a producer should not mix in personal feelings. After biking all day for the shoot, Yuna was so tired she just wanted to lie down. Yuna casually mentioned that Doyeon had once been in the track and field club. For a brief moment, Doyeon's eyes lit up, but Yuna soon brought the conversation back to Jaehyun. Doyeon could only look at her in silence. An older woman passing by mistakenly thought Yuna and Doyeon were a couple. Doyeon did not correct her. He only hid a faint smile. After Jaehyun and Haeyeon finished filming, they returned to the villa. Jaehyun looked around but did not see Yuna or Doyeon. He grew uneasy and kept checking his watch. Back in Seoul, Sujin still could not reach Jaehyun, so she went to Minju and Juwon's shop herself. Jaehyun was putting away the paintings he had made that day. Doyeon came into the room and called him out for dinner. At dinner, Jaehyun saw Yuna and Doyeon come back together. He was clearly jealous. Nahue casually asked Yuna where she and Doyeon had gone that morning. Jaehyun immediately stopped eating and listened. Yuna said she and Doyeon had only gone biking and rested for a while. Jaehyun could not help asking whether she hated daytime naps and liked packing every trip with plans. Yuna calmly replied that every trip was different. It also depended on who she went with. Jaehyun was so angry at that answer, he actually laughed. Just then, Minju and Juwon video called Jaehyun, and Sujin unexpectedly appeared on the screen. Taeho panicked so badly that Nahue had to scold him, but Jaehyun simply took the phone and walked aside to answer. Yuna's expression shifted slightly. Doyeon watched her with concern, and Haeyeon quietly watched Doyeon. After dinner, Jaehyun and Yuna accidentally ran into each other, but Yuna said nothing and deliberately avoided him. Jaehyun had no choice but to return to his room. Doyeon went to Jaehyun's room and reminded him to take cold medicine. He told Jaehyun to sleep early, since they still had filming the next day. The production crew had rented another room and would head over there soon. Before leaving, Doyeon told Jaehyun where the shoot was heading next. The crew planned to dig deeper into Jaehyun and Yuna's unresolved relationship, but the more Doyeon filmed them, the more confused he became. Jaehyun's eyes seemed full of old pain, but they also looked like they were reaching for something ahead. Jaehyun interrupted him. Jaehyun said Haeyeon had just told him that a producer should not get too personally involved. So what did Doyeon really want to ask? Doyeon smiled and said that rule only applied when he was standing behind the camera. In reality, he had many questions, but he would probably save those questions for another time. Doyeon left right after that. Jaehyun stayed behind with a quiet sigh. That night, neither Yuna nor Jaehyun slept. Yuna kept replaying their conversations, along with the moment Sujin appeared on Jaehyun's phone. Jaehyun, meanwhile, was troubled by Doyeon's question, and by the truth he could no longer deny. He had never really let go. By morning, both of them were too exhausted to face the crew, so Doyeon suggested letting them rest while the others searched for filming locations. Not long after, Yuna woke up and walked around the house. Only then did she realize no one was there. She came to Jaehyun's room and found him still sleeping deeply. Yuna quietly walked over and picked up the drawing on the desk. Then she moved closer and smoothed out Jaehyun's furrowed brow. In his half-asleep state, Jaehyun held her hand. Yuna quickly pulled her hand away, got up, and left. Yuna did not know that Jaehyun opened his eyes right after she left. Later, during filming, Yuna kept thinking about the hand-holding that morning. She missed everything Haeyeon was saying. Doyeon filmed with Jaehyun that day. On the road, Doyeon ran into the older woman from the day before. The older woman warmly asked whether Doyen had taken his girlfriend around to see all the scenery there. Jaehyun immediately turned back and stared at Doyen and the woman when he heard that. The older woman then kindly reminded them that they could not film today because it was about to rain. Haeun was about to film the final shot of the trip when she realized the camera battery was dead. She told Yuna to wait there for a while. Then Haeun ran down to get a spare battery before coming back. Yuna started wandering around and found a place to lie down and rest. But after Yuna had been lying there for only a short while, heavy rain started pouring down. Then Jaehyun appeared in the rain, holding an umbrella. He stood in front of Yuna for a long moment without speaking. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. He said he felt trapped by a promise he had made years ago. He was tired of being pulled back to her again and again. But no matter how hard he tried, Yuna was still the reason. Yuna swallowed her disappointment. She told him to go back. Jaehyun stepped closer and tilted the umbrella over her shoulder. Jaehyun did not answer. He kissed her. Years ago, during that trip, Yuna had whispered a promise in his ear. If the two of them separated again in the future, Jaehyun only had to appear in front of her again. Then she would do everything she could to hold on to him and never let go. A few minutes earlier, when Haeun went to get the spare battery, it suddenly began to rain. Doyen heard that Yuna was still at the filming location. He wanted to take an umbrella and go pick her up, but as soon as Doyen headed up, he saw someone running through the rain. Doyen had always hated anything he could not control, and Yuna was the one thing he had never been able to control. He had once thought he was the first one to like Yuna, but Yuna ended up with his good friend Jaehyun. After that, Doyen set rules for himself. Avoid her, control himself, never cross the line. Even after Jaehyun and Yuna broke up, Doyen still did not dare to waver. He always felt Jaehyun and Yuna would eventually meet again. Now, watching Yuna in the rain, Doyen wondered for the first time. Did the rules he had followed for years still mean anything? After the kiss, Yuna returned to Seoul and tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. So she got up and found something to do, trying to shake off the confusion. Jaehyun was no better. He sat down at his drawing table, hoping to calm himself down. But after getting caught in the rain that afternoon, Jaehyun coughed all night while painting. In the end, Jaehyun became seriously ill. Minju had to take care of him day and night. When Yuna returned to the company, she looked completely distracted. Her employees were confused. They did not understand why Yuna had looked so distracted for 5 days straight. Yuna stood tiredly on the rooftop, getting some air, when she received a call from Nahue. Nahue invited Yuna to come try a new dish after work. Yuna refused and said she was very busy. She suggested that Nahue could invite Taeho to taste it instead. Nahue said Taeho was already there, but he complained about everything he ate, so she could not trust him. Yuna suddenly felt confused. Why would Taeho be there at this hour? Was he not busy? Nahue answered that Jaehyun had been resting for several days, so Taeho had nothing to do right now. After hearing that, Yuna grew curious. She wondered why Jaehyun had been resting for several days. At the same time, Jaehyun was dreaming. In the dream, his childhood self stood in a crowded street, crying loudly. Jaehyun soon woke up from the nightmare. After sitting up, he wondered how long he had been like this. Jaehyun went downstairs to the kitchen, but no one was there. Later, when he came downstairs again, he found Minju staring blankly at the paintings he had made. He walked over and lay down on Minju's lap. Minju scolded him with concern for not taking his medicine on time and for getting completely soaked in the rain. As she spoke, she sighed that her son had grown so big. In Minju's eyes, Jaehyun had grown up alone, always forcing himself to get through things on his own. She blamed herself and Juwon for never being steady enough for their son to truly lean on. Jaehyun comforted her and said he was comfortable being alone. Minju did not need to worry. Doyen kept hesitating, not knowing what message to send Yuna. Asking whether she had eaten did not seem right. Asking her to eat with him also seemed unnatural. So he sent her a video of them riding bikes. Yuna replied that she wanted the link so she could delete the video herself. Doyen happily replied. Then he asked whether Yuna had eaten dinner, but he waited a long time and did not get a response. Jaehyun walked into his studio and suddenly found an old sketchbook folder covered in dust. He opened it and looked inside. Inside were drawings from the darkest period of Jaehyun's life, after he and Yuna had broken up. But after looking for only a few seconds, he closed the sketchbook. Yuna went to Nahue's shop and finally said everything she had been holding inside. Nahue joked that this was all because of that kiss. That was why both of them had run away after that day. But Nahue thought it was normal. They were exes. In that kind of atmosphere, it was easy to get swept up in the moment. Nahue told Yuna to treat it as a mistake and forget it. Why keep struggling with it? Yuna said that ever since that happened, Jaehyun had not contacted her at all. Nahue immediately asked why Yuna could not just call him herself. If Jaehyun did not contact her first, maybe he had simply treated that kiss as a mistake. Maybe he had chosen to forget it. Yuna became emotional and said Jaehyun was not that kind of person. No matter how casual he usually seemed, he was not a shallow person. He kept even more things inside than she did. Nahue paused and asked Yuna seriously whether she planned to get back together with him. Yuna did not answer. At first, Yuna had thought she could hide her feelings. As long as she stayed firm and did not waver, that would be enough. But the kiss in the rain had started to crack the hard shell Yuna had built around herself. By then, Yuna had almost no confidence left. When Doyeon got home, Yuna sent him a message. In it, she complained that one of the dishes tasted awful. Doyeon was still smiling until he turned around and saw his mother, Gun. The smile disappeared from his face. Gun had come to stay for a while. Doyeon only told her coldly to do whatever she wanted. He went straight back to his room. Jaehyun could not calm down after the kiss either. A sudden knock came at the door. It was Yuna. Yuna rushed in, went straight to the sofa, and let everything out. She yelled that Jaehyun had changed so much. In Yuna's eyes, Jaehyun had kissed her on purpose, yet now he wanted to act like nothing had happened. To her, liking someone, getting close, kissing them, and then pretending nothing happened was not honest. It was cowardice. Jaehyun could tell Yuna was drunk. He did not argue back. He simply poured her a glass of water. Jaehyun sat down and asked what she wanted him to do now. Did she want him to apologize and call the kiss a mistake? Was that what she wanted? But Jaehyun did not want to treat that kiss as a mistake. He also could not bring himself to talk about getting back together so easily. Instead, he gave her an answer that sounded even more ridiculous. Maybe they should start as friends. Yuna was clearly hurt, but she immediately played along. If they were friends, sleeping at a friend's house, that night should be fine. Her quick reply left Jaehyun completely speechless. The more he tried to draw a line, the more Yuna used the word friend to get close to him. Jaehyun looked helpless on the surface, but his eyes kept following her. He even prayed that when he woke up, Yuna would already be gone. Sujin had just finished an overseas shoot and was checking her schedule with her assistant. She asked if her Sunday was open. When the assistant confirmed it, Sujin happily said she was going on a date that day. A moment later, Sujin picked up her phone, ready to message Jaehyun, but she worried she might disturb Jaehyun while he was sleeping, so she stopped. Her assistant was stunned and asked if Sujin had just worried about someone else. Even Sujin herself was surprised. Sujin had never expected herself to worry about a guy like this. That morning, Doyeon saw Gun setting out a table full of food, but he showed little emotion. To him, she had always come and gone whenever she wanted, and he had stopped needing this forced mother and son routine long ago. Jaehyun slept until noon before coming out of his room. To his surprise, Yuna still had not left. She had even put on one of their old couple shirts. Yuna curiously asked him why he still had not thrown it away. Jaehyun said awkwardly that he did not know. Yuna kept teasing him with that couple shirt. She said if they were already friends, wearing an old couple shirt should be fine. Jaehyun tried hard to act like it did not bother him. Jaehyun said Yuna could do whatever she wanted, but his eyes kept following her. Yuna set out a table full of food. She also said they could eat first, then play games like friends. Jaehyun could not handle it at all. Every time Yuna said friend, Jaehyun had no comeback. Taeho called to remind him that there was an interview in the afternoon, but Jaehyun quietly told him to cancel the schedule. He even emphasized that Taeho should not come to his house. After hanging up, Jaehyun deliberately told Yuna he had no schedule that day. He said he could stay home and play with her. Yuna kept eating as if nothing was happening, and Jaehyun waited for a long time. Eventually, he quietly got up and served himself some rice. Doyeon received a message from Haeun. Haeun said Sujin wanted to appear in Jaehyun's shoot as a friend. The message caught Doyeon off guard. Back at Jaehyun's house, Jaehyun and Yuna were focused on playing games. Yuna won 4 rounds in a row. Jaehyun looked confused and asked, "Why are you so good at games?" Yuna said proudly, "It's probably hard to find something I'm not good at." Jaehyun refused to admit defeat and wanted another round. This time, Yuna wanted to make a bet. If she won, she wanted one of Jaehyun's drawings. Once Jaehyun agreed, he quickly went to get water before the game started. Just then, Soojin called. Yuna pretended to stay calm and asked Jaehyun a testing question. She asked if he and Soojin were close. Jaehyun did not answer directly. Instead, he asked about Yuna's relationship with Taehyun and Doyeon. Yuna could tell he was jealous, so she deliberately teased him. Jaehyun awkwardly admitted that he was jealous, but he quickly walked it back. Jaehyun said he was only afraid Yuna would take Doyeon away too, because Doyeon had been his friend first. The phone rang again. Jaehyun saw that Soojin was calling, so he got up and went to the side to answer it. When Haeun arrived at the editing room, she saw Doyeon editing footage that included Yuna. Haeun felt a little hurt, but she still invited Doyeon to dinner. Once they sat down together, Haeun asked him directly, "Do you like Yuna?" This time, Doyeon did not hide it. He admitted it honestly. He asked Haeun to keep it a secret for him. After all, he had never told anyone about it. Doyeon also did not understand how Haeun knew. Haeun smiled and explained, "Because I've always been paying attention to you. That's how I noticed." At Jaehyun's house, Yuna still refused to leave. When she saw a notification on his phone, she hesitated but eventually checked it. The message from Taeho said Jaehyun's canceled interview had been moved to next week. Only then did Yuna realize Jaehyun had lied, and she could not understand what he was really thinking. When Jaehyun came out of the shower, Yuna was nowhere in sight. A little disappointment crossed his face, but Yuna had not gone far. She had gone to Jaehyun's studio downstairs. Jaehyun saw Yuna holding the stack of drawings from his worst period. He immediately snatched them back and put them back where they had been. In the studio, Yuna finally confronted him about his so-called plan. She asked if his plan had been to spray water and throw salt at her. After she came back, was he planning to agree to film the documentary, get angry, kiss her, and then retreat back into calling them friends? Jaehyun dodged the real answer and said he only wanted them to be friends again. Yuna could tell he was lying. Yuna told him directly that if he wanted to keep pretending to be friends, she would make a plan of her own too. With that, she took the drawing she had won in the afternoon bet. When they were dating, they had broken up more than once. Some of their arguments and reconciliations had quietly made their way into Jaehyun's pictures too. Yuna soon recognized the place in the drawing. It was the amusement park they had gone to during their fourth breakup. She put the drawing into her bag and said she would leave after eating fried chicken. The doorbell rang again. Yuna opened the door and found Doyeon standing outside. Doyeon saw Yuna and Jaehyun together in the same house late at night. His expression immediately turned suspicious. Yuna put her arm around Jaehyun's shoulder. She deliberately said yesterday had been the first day of their friendship. Doyeon was speechless. He could not even tell whether he was filming a documentary or a comedy. So Doyeon simply walked into the house and said he would sleep there that night too. Jaehyun nearly fell apart. He could not understand when his home had turned into a hotel where anyone could stay. The awkwardness had gone too far, and staying longer would only make it worse. Yuna stood up, grabbed her bag, and prepared to go home. Jaehyun followed behind her and asked, "Aren't you staying to eat fried chicken?" Yuna pushed him away, said goodbye, and wished Doyeon a fun time staying over. Jaehyun quickly walked her to the door. He reminded her to take bus number 4 home instead of walking. Once Jaehyun went back inside, he thoughtfully turned on all the hallway lights. He stood by the window and looked out for a long time. He watched until Yuna disappeared into the distance. Doyeon quietly watched every little thing Jaehyun did for Yuna. He said nothing. Doyeon only asked if Jaehyun had ordered beer too. As soon as Yuna got home, Soyeon questioned her about where she had slept the night before. Soyeon said, "You don't even have many friends. Where could you have slept?" Yuna replied, "I was at Nahue's last night." Just then, Nahue appeared and said, "I don't know anything about that, little sister." Seeing how angry Soyeon looked, Nahue quickly said a few words to cover for Yuna. Later, when Yuna and Nahue were alone, Yuna stopped hiding it and told Nahue everything. When Nahue heard that Jaehyun only wanted to be friends, she let out a dry laugh. Then Nahue seriously asked Yuna, "What about you? Are you planning to be friends with Jaehyun too? How is this any different from having a one-sided crush on that guy?" Yuna was so embarrassed that her face turned red. She kept saying it was not like that. Around the same time, Jaehyun and Doyeon were eating fried chicken and drinking beer. Lately, Jaehyun had felt Doyeon watching him in a strange way. Doyeon had even ordered beer and said he wanted to sleep there. but Doyen only smiled and said, "Did me staying here shake you up that much?" The next morning, Jaehyun woke up, rubbed his eyes, and looked outside. He saw Yuna standing in front of his house. Doyen seemed to be interviewing her. Yuna had left an important bag at Jaehyun's house, so she refused to have lunch with Nahue and came to Jaehyun's place alone. But the moment Yuna arrived, she ran into the celebrity everyone her age knew. In front of the camera, Sujin said she had first been comforted by Inha's architectural drawings. Only later did she recognize that Jaehyun was Inha. As Sujin got to know him, she became more drawn to him. After the shoot ended, Sujin invited Jaehyun out for a meal. Yuna could only stand there and watch Jaehyun with Sujin again, but Yuna suddenly called Jaehyun's name. She said she had forgotten something very important at his house. Jaehyun smiled and said, "Just do whatever you want, like before." Sujin also politely nodded to Yuna. Sujin left with Jaehyun. Doyen noticed Yuna did not look well, so he invited her to eat with him. Sujin took Jaehyun to lunch at a restaurant with a view of her villa. At the next table, some guests recognized Sujin and began judging her appearance while trying to take photos. Jaehyun was about to stop them, but Sujin handled it herself with a smile. Only afterward did she admit that she merely acted used to those looks and comments. In truth, she had never really been okay with strangers judging her so easily. Jaehyun tried to comfort her. He said she did not have to live under other people's judgment. What mattered was that she understood herself. That was enough. Sujin smiled. She felt as if she had found someone who truly understood her. Neither of them knew a paparazzo had already photographed them together. Not long after, Jaehyun drove Sujin home. On the way, Sujin curiously asked about his relationship with Yuna. Jaehyun honestly said, "I used to like her a lot, but now we're just friends." Sujin asked quietly, "How much do you have to like someone to stay friends after breaking up?" But after asking, she immediately stopped Jaehyun from answering, because she did not want to know the answer at all. Before Sujin went upstairs, she invited Jaehyun to come up and sit for a while. Yuna could not focus on anything. She was helping Soyeon dye her hair, but her mind kept going back to Sujin and Jaehyun. Distracted, Yuna got hair dye on Soyeon's neck. After Sujin invited Jaehyun upstairs, he awkwardly got out of the car. Then he seriously turned her down. Sujin was so angry that her face flushed. She scolded him and said, "You being so serious makes this even more embarrassing. I invited you casually, but you made it seem like I had just confessed to you." After Sujin returned to her room, she kept sighing. At this rate, Sujin would probably stay trapped in a one-sided crush. With that, she picked up her phone. She discovered that photos of her and Jaehyun were already spreading on social media. Another wave of criticism about her cold attitude was spreading too. After Jaehyun got home, he found the very important bag Yuna had forgotten there. He smiled, picked it up, and looked it over. Yuna was still caught up in her emotions. She could not focus on anything, which made Soyeon extremely irritated. Yuna received a message. She hurried outside. Jaehyun was standing at her front door, just like he had back in high school. Looking at Jaehyun, Yuna realized she had never really let him go. She was about to gather the courage to say what she really wanted to say, but Soyeon's voice interrupted her. Soyeon asked who was standing outside. Jaehyun, Yuna, and Soyeon sat down together at the dining table. The moment Soyeon saw Jaehyun, her expression hardened. She was openly hostile. Soyeon even compared Jaehyun to Doyen. She said Doyen was polite and cute, while Jaehyun was simply a mess. Yuna could not help speaking up for Jaehyun, but Soyeon scolded her. Soyeon said she could not forgive the person who had made Yuna cry in secret for so many days. Jaehyun did not argue. He quietly finished the meal and left. Before leaving, he smiled and said he had not eaten that much all year. He also said he was still very afraid of Soyeon. Yuna called out to him from behind. She thanked him for bringing the bag over so late. Jaehyun smiled and said, "See, we can still be friends." But once he turned and left, Yuna's smile disappeared. After Yuna went back inside, Soyeon told her she had seen all those nights when Yuna cried in secret. Yuna finally admitted that she was the one who had abandoned Jaehyun. Her own selfishness had pushed him away. Even now, she still liked Jaehyun very much. She did not want to be friends with Jaehyun. She could not act as if nothing had happened the way he did. Soyeon did not blame her. Soyeon simply walked over, pulled Yuna into her arms, and comforted her. The next morning, Yuna's team members looked at her and whispered among themselves. Someone said, "Based on my personal experience, She cried for at least 5 hours last night. While everyone struggled to respond, Jaemin walked in. He joked that he had never seen eyes that looked so much like a carp's. He asked Yuna if she had cried all night. Yuna answered flatly that she had not. She said her eyes were swollen because of a sty. The excuse was so forced that everyone just smiled awkwardly and moved on. After Doyen got Gun's text, he went home. When he saw a full table of food in that empty room, he broke down. Gun had even prepared peaches, even though Doyen was severely allergic to them, because things at home were always like that. Doyen had always gone to Jaehyun's house whenever Gun came back. Jaehyun could tell something was wrong with his friend. Just as he had done before, Jaehyun stayed with Doyen and slept on the sofa. Back in the present, Jaehyun sat alone and watched every clip Doyen had filmed of Yuna. As Yuna smiled on the screen, Jaehyun's own feelings became harder to sort out. After a while, Jaehyun picked up the lunchbox and left the editing room. When Jaehyun got home, he buried himself in drawing and did not notice his phone. When Yuna got home, she finally read the article Nahue had mentioned. A photo of Jaehyun taking Sujin home had sparked rumors that Sujin and Inha were dating. Sujin's company did not plan to clarify it immediately, while Sujin did not want to drag Jaehyun deeper into her public controversy. Jaehyun also confirmed that they were not in that kind of relationship, but by then the misunderstanding had already reached Yuna. She pretended not to care, yet the rumors still ate at her. Jaehyun wanted to explain everything as soon as possible, but after speaking with Sujin, he realized a one-sided clarification would put her in an awkward position. So he had to hold back and wait for Sujin's side to speak first. Jaehyun walked into the living room and saw Taeho stuck on a call with reporters. Jaehyun walked over and ended the call. He told Taeho not to waste his energy explaining. They would respond after Sujin's side released a statement. Taeho froze, unable to understand why Jaehyun had suddenly changed his mind. Jaehyun changed the subject and asked about his schedule for the week. Taeho said his week was packed with interviews. He also said Friday would be the final documentary shoot. Yuna might come to film that day too. Hearing that, Jaehyun let out a sigh. That morning, Doyen came home from a run and found a bag of food in his refrigerator. He knew Minju had made it. After Doyen finished eating, he called Minju right away to thank her. Minju was delighted. She told Doyen that if there was anything he wanted to eat, all he had to do was tell her. She would make it again and send it over. After the call, Juwon started complaining about their precious son. Juwon said he had no idea where Jaehyun had put his phone. Jaehyun would not answer his calls. Juwon also wondered if the rumor about Jaehyun and Sujin was true. Minju knew her son well. She said that if Jaehyun said he and Sujin were only friends, then they were only friends. Besides, Jaehyun already had Yuna. Juwon nodded too. To Juwon, Yuna was the person who suited Jaehyun best. As Juwon said that, he looked toward the yard. Then he asked Minju if autumn had come already, and whether it was this week. Minju nodded. She said she had originally planned to tell Jaehyun that they should all go back to the countryside together. After that, the two of them held each other's hands tightly, a quiet sadness between them. Nahue worried that Yuna would suffer in silence after seeing the dating rumor, so she called to check on her. Yuna acted tough. She said she was too busy to overthink anything, then hung up on Nahue. But when Yuna stopped at a red light, she kept staring at Sujin's billboard. Yuna muttered that Sujin was pretty, but she did not seem like Jaehyun's type. Yuna kept thinking about it. She did not even notice when the light turned green. The drivers behind her kept honking. When Doyen arrived at work, Haeun checked in on him. After that, Haeun went with Jaehyun to a magazine interview. During the interview, the editor tried to find loneliness in Inha's paintings, especially in the empty spaces where people should have been. Jaehyun only said every viewer could interpret the paintings differently. He even admitted that he might not have the deep story the editor was looking for. The interview turned awkward. Watching him, Haeun thought his blunt honesty was part of what made him unusual. Jaehyun said he was fine with that. He told Haeun to keep that side of him in the edit and make it stand out. Haeun took the chance to ask whether the footage Sujin had filmed for the documentary had bothered him. Jaehyun said he had no problem with it, but Haeun said she still needed to confirm things with Sujin's agency. Jaehyun paused for a moment. Then he asked why Haeun had not asked whether the rumor was true. He wondered if Haeun had simply assumed it was false. Haeun nodded and admitted she had. Jaehyun was surprised. The more Jaehyun looked at Haeun, the more she reminded him of Doyen. Haeun said she was sure. She knew Jaehyun had too much going on to care about anyone else right now. Yuna alone was already enough to keep him busy. Jaehyun objected and asked what kind of producer talked about a documentary subject's feelings like that. Haeun said she had already turned off the camera. Then Haeun asked if Jaehyun had watched all the footage Doyeon had filmed the night before. Jaehyun froze for a second. Then he changed the subject and said they should stop for the day. Jaehyun quickly left. At the office, Jaemin stood in front of Yuna and kept complaining. He asked why the other co-workers had gone out for coffee without calling him. Yuna could only say that Jaemin had one flaw. He was just a little slow at reading the room. Jaemin disagreed. He said he had always been very perceptive. He knew everyone had been talking about Inha and Sujin all day. They must have been wondering whether the dating rumor was true. But Jaemin said he already knew it was true. Did that not prove he was sharp and knew everything? Yuna slowly turned her head and looked at him. With a cold smile, she called him the most perceptive person in Korea. Yuna was beyond irritated. She clearly did not want to hear any more news. But all day long, people kept bringing up Jaehyun and Sujin's dating rumor. When Yuna reached the bus stop, she heard two female students gossiping about it again. The students even insisted that Yuna and Jaehyun must be dating. They wanted to see the cute pair together. Yuna walked away in frustration. After hearing more gossip about Jaehyun and Sujin, Yuna noticed an old woman selling red dates near the bus stop. Remembering that red date tea could help with insomnia, she bought far more than she needed and carried them straight to Jaehyun's house. Only when she arrived did she realize the bag had torn, leaving red dates scattered along the road and across his living room. While picking them up, Yuna noticed the bills and letters on the table. Then the doorbell rang. Sujin was outside. Later, when Jaehyun returned home, the scattered red dates confused him more than Sujin's bottle of alcohol and joking note. Back at her own place, Yuna spread the remaining dates out to dry, still thinking about the conversation she had just had with Sujin. In the present, Jaehyun gathered the red dates and placed them on the table. He even quickly drew them into his painting. Then Jaehyun sighed. Even he did not understand what he was doing. Just then, the doorbell rang. Jaehyun instantly became nervous. Feeling uneasy, he went to open the door, but after looking left and right, he saw no one. Only when Jaehyun turned his head did he realize Doyeon was there. Doyeon had come to see Jaehyun after getting drunk. Doyeon thanked Jaehyun for bringing him the lunchbox. Jaehyun said that if Doyeon wanted to thank someone, he should contact Minju directly. Then Jaehyun got up and went back to the studio to draw. But Doyeon spoke again. Doyeon said someone had told him that his footage was full of feelings. He had tried hard to hide those feelings, but they had still been discovered. Then Doyeon asked Jaehyun what he thought. He asked whether Jaehyun had watched all of those clips. Jaehyun only said he was not sure and did not know. He told Doyeon to go to sleep, then returned to the studio. Doyeon had expected that answer. Still, he felt disappointed. The next morning, Yuna carefully chose her clothes. She was getting ready for the final documentary shoot. Before leaving, Yuna glanced at the calendar. Then it seemed to hit her what day it was. Meanwhile, Jaehyun received a call from his assistant. The assistant reminded him that today was the final shoot. The crew hoped he would take it seriously and stay put. Jaehyun was about to answer, but then he saw a notice on his family's snack shop that said it would be closed for several days. The filming crew had already gathered in front of Jaehyun's house, ready to shoot, but Jaehyun still had not appeared. Haeun finally blamed Doyeon for being too lenient with Jaehyun. Taeho kept apologizing. Someone even asked Yuna if she and Jaehyun had fought again. Yuna tried to explain for Jaehyun, but then she suddenly remembered what special day it was. So Yuna asked for leave and went to find him. Around then, Jaehyun arrived at a grocery store. He asked about the little dog named Rongrong. Jaehyun froze when he saw a female student walking the dog on a leash. He remembered that Rongrong used to be terrified of going outside. The dog had not even dared to let its feet touch the ground. It always had to be held in someone's arms or pushed around in a stroller. The shop owner told Jaehyun that when Rongrong was little, its owner had abandoned it during a walk. For a long time after that, Rongrong was afraid of going outside. But now, Rongrong could finally walk outside on its own. The change hit Jaehyun hard. He suddenly saw himself in that dog. That story reminded him of the wound Yuna had left back then. That year, Jaehyun had wanted to give up the chance to train abroad for several years. Back then, Jaehyun refused the study abroad opportunity his teacher had recommended. He did not want to stay abroad alone for such a long time. His teacher told him that if he was afraid of being alone, he could try going with a friend. After hearing that, Jaehyun immediately thought of Yuna. he began seriously researching English exams, scholarships, and funding paperwork. He even imagined that if he and Yuna went abroad together, they might live together. When Taeho casually asked whether Jaehyun and Yuna would rent a place together overseas, Jaehyun's eyes lit up. He became even more determined to take Yuna with him. But things did not go that way. Right when Jaehyun was full of hope, Yuna broke up with him. Jaehyun could not understand why. All he saw was Yuna's back as she firmly walked away. The same fear cut into him again. Being taken outside, only to be abandoned. That moment also brought back an even earlier night. Back then, Jaehyun had only been a 5-year-old boy. Later, when Jaehyun faced Yuna again, he chose friendship instead of trying to repair their broken relationship. He still loved her. He just could not accept being abandoned again. In the present, Yuna searched for Jaehyun for a long time, but she still did not know where he had gone. Taeho called her and said he had already called Minju and Juwon snack shop. No one had answered. He had also asked the hardware store owner. Only then did Taeho learn that Jaehyun's whole family had gone back to the countryside. This time, Jaehyun seemed determined not to be found. As Jaehyun walked, he ran into Soyeon, carrying something heavy. After insisting on helping her, he ended up following her home with the bag. At Soyeon's house, Jaehyun finally noticed the red dates drying in the yard. Soyeon said Yuna had been boiling tea all day without explaining who it was for. Only then did Jaehyun connect it to the night Yuna had come to his house with red date tea. The scattered red dates had been meant for him. Soyeon looked at Jaehyun, lowered her head, and apologized on Yuna's behalf. She blamed herself for Yuna's sharp words, difficult behavior, and selfishness. Soyeon only begged Jaehyun not to hate Yuna, but Jaehyun said he did not hate her. In Jaehyun's eyes, Yuna was so outstanding that he felt he was not good enough for her. Today was also the day he felt most useless. That night, Yuna had searched for Jaehyun all day, but she still could not find him. At the same time, Haeun knocked on the door of Doyeon's editing room. No one was inside. Haeun looked at the video being edited and found a segment of Yuna's interview. In the footage, Yuna was looking toward Jaehyun. She smiled because of his blank-looking face. Jaehyun sat drinking alone in a small restaurant. By chance, Yuna found him. When Jaehyun saw Yuna, he froze for a moment. But Yuna sat down naturally. She picked up a spoon and chopsticks, ready to eat with him. Yuna did not look angry. She only said she knew that every year, on this special day, Jaehyun would disappear. The strange part was that Minju and Juwon would disappear with him. Yuna still did not know the full reason, but she vaguely understood that this day had to be connected to the family past Jaehyun had always refused to talk about. The two of them sat facing each other and started drinking. Yuna finally admitted that she could not just be friends with Jaehyun. But before Yuna could finish, Jaehyun spoke first. He said he missed her. He had always missed her. He missed her every moment. But whenever Jaehyun saw Yuna again, he would get angry. He would resent her. It felt almost like hatred. Only now did Jaehyun understand that what he felt had never been hatred. What Jaehyun wanted was for Yuna to choose him without wavering. With red eyes, Jaehyun asked if Yuna could keep loving him. He asked if she could hold on to his hand this time and never let go again. Yuna nodded through her tears and agreed. Together, they walked up to a tall building. Jaehyun suddenly lay down on the ground. He said that when he was little, someone had told him this was the only way to look up at the top of the building. That person was not Juwon. It was Jaehyun's birth father. Back then, young Jaehyun had lain beside the road, counting 1, 2, 1, 2 again and again. When he finally sat up, his birth father was gone. That was when Yuna understood what Jaehyun feared most. It was never just the breakup. It was the fear of being left behind again. Jaehyun raised a hand and covered his tear-filled eyes. Yuna listened quietly as he talked about his childhood. Yuna gently moved his hand away and kissed him. After they went back home, Yuna asked when he had found out he was adopted. Jaehyun said he had found out by accident when he was little. Every year, on the same fall day, his parents would hold a memorial portrait and cry. Back then, he did not understand what it meant. He only understood those moments much later. He often dreamed that he had been abandoned. In those dreams, he could never clearly see the face he was searching for. But in real life, he always knew the parents he was searching for were not the parents raising him now. Yuna asked, "Do the parents who raised you know that you found out?" Jaehyun said no. He said there was no reason to bring it up, so he had never said anything. Yuna's heart ached for him. His loneliness ran deeper than she had imagined. Carrying a secret like that alone must have been exhausting. She wanted to comfort him, but she did not know what to do. Jaehyun told her that having her beside him, just quietly listening, was already what he needed most. Jaehyun used to have severe insomnia. Ever since Yoona came back to his side, he had been able to sleep well. As long as Yoona was there, Jaehyun felt as if some missing part of him had finally been put back. Early the next morning, Yoona kept checking her phone during breakfast. Soyeon noticed and asked whose call Yoona was waiting for. Soyeon told her to focus on breakfast if nothing else was going on. Yoona obediently agreed. While washing the dishes, Yoona heard a ringtone and rushed to find her phone. But it was Soyeon's phone, not hers. Unable to keep waiting, Yoona took out her own phone and almost called Jaehyun first. Then she hesitated, worried that calling so early might wake him up. Someone was standing outside. It was Jaehyun, still yawning. Yoona immediately felt sorry for him. Out of worry, she started scolding him. She told him to take care of his health, stop staying up so late, and get proper rest. Jaehyun looked completely lost after getting scolded. Still, he gently said he just liked standing there at that hour to see her off to work. He also reminded Yoona that if she felt happy, she should tell him right away. Jaehyun offered to drive her to work. Yoona refused because he had not slept enough. So Jaehyun had to take a step back. He said he would at least walk her to the bus stop, then go back home and sleep. After they walked a little farther, Yoona turned to him and asked if they were really back together. Once he answered, she smiled shyly and said, "I'm counting on you from now on." Jaehyun looked at her and thought she was almost too cute. Later, Jaehyun went to Minju and Juwon's snack shop. Minju saw her son's bright smile and asked, "Did something good happen?" Jaehyun only smiled and did not answer. Instead, he asked his parents if they had enjoyed their trip back to the countryside. Minju excitedly showed Jaehyun the photos she had taken during the vacation. She also asked whether she and Juwon should close the snack shop and retire. Jaehyun agreed without hesitation. He even encouraged Minju and Juwon to retire without worrying and to use his bank card from now on. When Jaehyun saw Minju smile, he suggested that they take him along the next time they visited their hometown. Minju smiled and agreed. Juwon came out and joked that Jaehyun's documentary had finished filming. He said Jaehyun should come back to the snack shop and work the register. Minju immediately spoke up for her son. She even showed off that Jaehyun would let her use his card from now on. Juwon eagerly asked if he got a share too. Jaehyun smiled and said his father should rely on himself, because that would make life more meaningful. Juwon actually sat there and took it seriously. He did not realize his son was teasing him. Jaehyun got up, said goodbye to Minju and Juwon and went home. The next morning, it was time for the final documentary shoot. Since Jaehyun and Yoona had made things official again, the air between them felt awkward but sweet. When they were asked how they would face each other 10 years later, Yoona and Jaehyun were both too shy to answer. In the editing room, Doyeon watched the footage and stayed silent for a long time. Haeun pushed the door open and came in to check on Doyeon. She told him to go home and rest, because he had already stayed up for several nights editing the documentary. But Doyeon refused to listen. Haeun sensed something was wrong. She walked closer and realized he had a high fever. She quickly dragged him out and made him go home. At Jaehyun's place, he poured the red date tea Yoona had made for him. After just one sip, he looked confused. He could not understand why anyone would drink it on purpose, but he could not bring himself to waste Yoona's kindness. So Jaehyun quickly made a cup of coffee. He took another sip of the tea while smelling the coffee, as if the coffee were medicine. Taeho, sitting beside him, was puzzled too. He had no idea what was wrong with Jaehyun today. As they talked, Jaehyun's assistant told him that Doyeon's team wanted to use a few of Jaehyun's drawings as documentary material. Jaehyun could start thinking about which works he wanted to send over. Yoona had just finished a meeting with her team. After everyone left, she smiled and sent Jaehyun a message, asking if he had time to have dinner with her tonight. Just then, a coworker pushed the door open and accidentally caught Yoona's bright smile. Jaehyun texted back to apologize and said he had something to do that night. That one reply instantly brought Yoona's mood down. Jaehyun had asked her to skip work that morning, but now he was saying he was busy. Was he angry with her? Yoona hesitated for a while, but she still did not ask directly. She only said she understood. Yoona's sudden change in mood made the coworkers outside even more curious. Doyeon dragged himself home alone. When he saw his empty house, he felt irritated. The longer he looked at it, the more he hated being there. Doyeon lay down and told himself he would only sleep for a short while. By the time he woke up, it was already late at night. When he opened his eyes, he saw Jaehyun sitting beside him. Jaehyun handed him medicine and said his fever was high. Jaehyun also complained about Doyeon's house. He said the place felt cold and empty, without any trace of life. Doyeon lazily asked if he himself was already dead. If he was not dead, why would his house have no sign of life? Jaehyun awkwardly changed the subject and asked how he had gotten so sick. Doyeon said he had only stayed up for a few nights, then told Jaehyun to go home. But Jaehyun kept stammering. In the end, Jaehyun said that he and Yoona had gotten back together. Doyeon gave a faint smile. He asked bitterly if he did not even get a choice in hearing that news. Jaehyun seriously explained that from high school until now, Doyeon had always been the first person he wanted to tell. Doyeon looked at Jaehyun and asked if he wanted to hear congratulations. If not, he said he just wanted to keep sleeping. The next morning, Yoona was putting on her shoes when Jaehyun called. In her rush, she hit her foot against the edge of the bed and nearly cried from the pain, but she still tried to put on a bright smile before answering. The two of them spoke shyly, with small awkward pauses between them. After a moment of hesitation, Yoona asked if he had time that weekend. If he did, they could go out on a date. Jaehyun looked a little disappointed. Still, he quickly agreed and arranged to meet Yoona that weekend. After hanging up, Yoona felt disappointed in herself. She tossed and turned on the bed. She did not understand why they were being so awkward. They did not feel like the same two people they used to be. On her way to work, Yoona told Naoe what had been happening lately. She said that ever since they had gotten back together, Jaehyun's attitude had been strange. She felt like he was avoiding her. It seemed like he did not really want to go on their date that weekend. Naoe said they were not 19 anymore. Yoona had invited him out. Was he supposed to jump up and cheer about it? But Yoona was still worried. This Jaehyun felt completely different from the Jaehyun she used to know. Naoe comforted her and said that since Yoona had already decided to get back together with him, she should stop overthinking it. Yoona only needed to be sincere and stay by his side. After saying that, Naoe quickly hung up the phone. Soyeon was sitting beside Naoe at the time. After hearing that Yoona was dating Jaehyun again, Soyeon did not exactly oppose it, but she did not fully support it either. She only said that as long as Yoona liked him and was happy, then it was fine. Still, she quietly asked Naoe whether Jaehyun was healthy and strong. That day, Yoona went with a staff member from the partner company to inspect a site. The staff member suddenly pointed out a place with a beautiful sunset view. Yoona refused and said she had come alone that day. Hearing that, the staff member turned back and asked, "Isn't that guy with you?" Only then did Yoona notice a familiar figure nearby. It was Jaehyun. After being discovered, Jaehyun shyly walked up to Yoona. Sounding wronged, he said he did not understand why they had to wait until the weekend. That was way too long. He told her she could focus on her work for now. Seeing him stammer, Yoona paused. Then she broke into a bright smile and hugged Jaehyun tightly from behind. The boy Yoona had liked back then was still there. Jaehyun was still the only person Yoona felt that drawn to. Yoona smiled at him and said, "Wait for me for a bit. I'll be done soon." Jaehyun looked relieved and more than a little pleased. Jaehyun touched the left side of his chest and muttered that coming here had been the right choice. He quietly followed behind Yoona and waited for her to finish work. Before long, Yoona was finally done. She looked around and saw that Jaehyun had brought back a bag of food and 2 hot dogs. Yoona looked genuinely happy. Only then did Yoona truly feel that they had officially gotten back together. She happily walked forward and kissed Jaehyun. The kiss caught him so off guard that he froze for a second. Jaehyun switched the sausage to his other hand. Then he pulled Yoona back and kissed her sweetly. Doyeon happened to run into Soojin at the TV station. Soojin checked on Doyeon first, but soon brought up Jaehyun. She asked if Inha had been very busy lately. She asked why Inha had disappeared completely and why she could not reach him no matter what she did. Doyeon stayed quiet. Doyeon's silence made Soojin suspicious. So Soojin invited Doyeon to dinner. Once they were alone, Soojin directly asked Doyeon about the sad look in his eyes earlier. When Doyeon did not answer, Soojin started testing him. First, she asked if Doyeon knew about the rumor that Inha had rejected her. Then she asked if he knew the company wanted to use the scandal for publicity. Doyeon could only dodge those questions with jokes. Then Soojin asked if Jaehyun liked Yoona. Doyeon's silence told Soojin everything. She forced herself to order alcohol, trying to hold down her disappointment. Later, Yoona asked Jaehyun how he knew where she had gone for work that day. Jaehyun explained that Yuna's co-worker had contacted him before. That co-worker was the only person around Yuna who had asked him about the rumor involving Sujin. So today, Jaehyun had asked her about Yuna. When Sujin came up, Yuna felt a little bothered. Jaehyun stepped forward and insisted that the whole thing was completely untrue. But Yuna said the photos were not fake either. Had he really not gone to Sujin's house? Jaehyun desperately explained that he had only stood outside and had not gone upstairs. But the more he explained, the worse Yuna felt. No matter what, Yuna could not feel happy. Jaehyun followed Yuna all the way to the door of her home. Jaehyun sounded genuinely wronged. He said they were both already 30 years old now. They were not high school students anymore. So why was she rushing home at this hour? Yuna smiled and walked toward him. Jaehyun pulled her into his arms. Just then, they heard Soyeon's voice. They held hands and ran to a corner together. Once the tension eased, Jaehyun suddenly asked if Yuna wanted to come over to his place. He said they could go back together and drink red date tea. Even though Yuna was nervous, she was amused by him too. Then Jaehyun received a phone call. After the call, he asked Yuna to come with him to see something he called very boring. Sujin mumbled that she had known from the beginning that things would end this way. So now that she knew everything, she was not too shocked. Doyeon sat beside her, pouring drinks and listening to her complain. Sujin finally spoke about the pain of one-sided love. She had thought one-sided love was not a big deal, but after she really fell into it, she found that wanting more would grow little by little. Even a moment as tiny as a grain of sand could control her mood. She did not understand why Jaehyun could make her so miserable. She felt like a side character who had accidentally stepped into someone else's long love story. Doyeon listened and told her time would help, but before it got better, it would hurt for a long time. It would hurt for so long that a person would think they could not take it anymore. Eventually, people would slowly get used to the pain. Jaehyun brought Yuna to an exhibition space. He planned to hold his next exhibition there. Confused, Yuna asked why he had to come here at this hour to check the place. Jaehyun said it was because he planned to open the exhibition at this hour. The exhibition would open after everyone else had fallen asleep. The reason was simple. His drawings had all been made at this hour too. Yuna thought for a moment. Then she seriously asked what he had been thinking during all those long nights of drawing. Jaehyun answered as he walked toward Yuna. He said Yuna had always been there, in every delicate line, every late-night hour, and every moment he had carried through the years. From now on, he wanted to spend all his time loving her. After they embraced, Jaehyun looked straight into Yuna's eyes and said, "Let's go back to your place together." Yuna nodded. That night, Jaehyun was finally no longer alone. Doyeon went home in a daze. The night before kept playing in his head. When his fever finally broke, he opened his eyes and saw Jaehyun still there. Jaehyun had not gone home. He had spent the night on the floor beside him. Jaehyun reached over and touched Doyeon's forehead. Once Jaehyun was sure the fever had gone down, he got up and said he should head home. Doyeon said weakly that he had told Jaehyun to leave all night. He could not understand why Jaehyun had stayed, but Jaehyun still did not leave. Instead, he suddenly asked if Doyeon wanted to move in with him. Doyeon's house felt far too lonely. Doyeon refused right away. He said, "Jaehyun, stop talking nonsense. Go home and sleep." Jaehyun shot to his feet and sulked. "Good. I was scared you'd say yes the second I asked." Before leaving, Jaehyun reminded him again, "No matter how busy you are, you still need to come home and sleep." Now, Doyeon decided to let go of his feelings for Yuna. He could not let himself be the only one acting dishonorably in this relationship. After getting back together with Yuna, Jaehyun felt as if he had entered a whole new world. In that new life, Yuna made him drink red date tea. She urged him to sleep earlier. She even dragged him out for runs to fix his daily routine. Jaehyun complained out loud, but he still went along with it. As long as Yuna was with him, even the worst-tasting red date tea became bearable. The two of them seemed determined to make up for the 5 years they had lost. Whenever they had time, they stayed close to each other. But the sweeter things became, the more fear crept back into Jaehyun. He knew a part of him was still trapped on the night Yuna broke up with him. Sometimes that uneasiness still came back, but Yuna did not let herself get swept away by those sweet days, either. She knew trouble could still hide beneath the calm surface. She pretended to read a book. In reality, she was searching for advice on how couples should stay together after breaking up and getting back together. The search results suggested showing the other person a new side of herself. Yuna agreed with that advice. She knew a calm surface could still hide trouble underneath, so she started preparing for the hidden problems that might still remain between them. One day, Taeho walked out of the grocery store and froze. Right in front of him, Jaehyun and Yuna were holding each other close. For a moment, Taeho could not say a word. Yuna and Jaehyun quickly pulled apart and pretended nothing had happened. Jaehyun called Taeho over. He even taught him how to breathe and calm down. After a few breaths, Taeho finally settled down. Then he asked what exactly was going on between them. Once Jaehyun explained, Taeho was furious. He asked when it had started. When Jaehyun nodded, Taeho looked crushed. Taeho realized he had been the only clueless one all along. He shook his head and refused to accept it. Then he ran off in despair. Rumors also started spreading at Yuna's company that she was in a relationship. That made Jaemin curious, so he came over to ask around. While he was there, he also asked about the documentary they had already finished filming. He asked when it would air, because their company had appeared in it too. His own interview footage was in it as well. Yuna was curious about the air date too, so she tried calling Doyeon, but Doyeon did not pick up. He did not reply to her messages either. Yuna did not think too much of it. She only guessed that Doyeon was busy editing the film. In the editing room, the entire team was watching the rough cut of the documentary. When it ended, even Hyejin could not help praising it. Doyeon had finally found the film's direction. It was no longer as messy and unclear as before. Everyone happily suggested going out to celebrate, but Doyeon refused. He said he still had to return to the editing room and finish the later episodes. Hyejin joked that Doyeon was heartbroken, so everyone had to make sure he ate and drank properly. In an interview, Soojin clarified that she only liked Inha's paintings as a fan. The two of them were not lovers. Taeho saw the interview and still felt bad for her. He also worried that Jaehyun and Yuna might get hurt again after getting back together. He remembered how badly Jaehyun had fallen apart after the breakup years ago. Jaehyun apologized to Taeho. He admitted he should not have hidden the fact that he and Yuna were back together. But he also told Taeho seriously that he was truly happy this time. He would not collapse the way he had in the past. Later, Jaehyun texted Yuna, "Did you eat?" Yuna originally wanted to send a simple reply, but when she looked back at her old messages, she noticed that every reply had been short and cold. Since getting back together, Yuna had been afraid of repeating the same mistakes, so she looked up advice on how to maintain a relationship after reconciliation. She tried to show Jaehyun a different side of herself on their dates. She deliberately changed her style. She praised him more. She tried not to nag. But the harder Yuna tried, the more awkward she became. Jaehyun saw through her uneasiness. He asked what she was trying to do. Only then did Yuna admit that she wanted to rebuild their relationship in a different way. Jaehyun asked why she had to do that. Yuna finally said what had been bothering her. She said some people claimed couples who fought often were more likely to break up again after getting back together. So, she wanted to find a way to deal with it in advance. Jaehyun said whoever wrote that advice clearly did not understand Yuna. Yuna was different every time she appeared. She was fresh every day. Even the Yuna standing in front of him was already different from the Yuna 3 seconds ago. That was exactly the kind of person Jaehyun liked. He liked the way she kept pointing out how different they were. He would only get tired if she complained about the exact same thing every day. So she had better come up with new complaints every day. She should keep complaining for the rest of their lives. They laughed together and continued their date at Nahue's restaurant. Watching them tease each other made Nahue deeply uncomfortable. To make it worse, after tasting a spoonful of soup, Yuna complained that the kimchi stew was too spicy. Jaehyun immediately backed her up. He said he could handle spicy food now because being with Yuna had trained him well. Nahue stood there, forced to watch them flirt right in front of her. She was so annoyed that she wanted to escape for a while. The next morning, Jaehyun needed something for his hangover after drinking too much the night before. He saw that Soojin had already clarified the rumor, so he texted her to thank her. Soojin was disappointed, but she understood that he had already drawn a clear line. Around the same time, Doyeon shut himself inside the editing room. Even when Yuna showed concern for him, he still tried hard to keep his distance. Soojin came in person to say goodbye to Jaehyun. She told him she would not suddenly show up again. She would not disturb him and Yuna again either. She stubbornly said she had not liked him that much anyway. Still, she hid the goodbye inside a joke and let the one-sided love end there. Later, Yuna watched the rough cut of the documentary's first episode that Doyeon had shown her. She watched the film quietly. Sometimes, she smiled. She did not notice Doyen watching her from behind the whole time. Haeun came over with a lunchbox and was about to knock on the editing room door, but the scene inside made her stop. A moment later, Haeun turned around and left. Yuna talked it over with Doyen as she watched. She said she had not expected his perspective to capture so many interesting moments. Yuna kept smiling happily as she talked about Jaehyun. She talked about his silly smile. She talked about the moments when they looked at each other. Doyen could not hold it in anymore. He suddenly stood up. He apologized to Yuna and said they could not keep watching right now. Yuna understood the boundary, too. She stood up to say goodbye. She also told Doyen that if he had time, he should eat with her and Jaehyun. But Doyen said he still needed a little more time. As Doyen watched Yuna leave, his chest tightened until it felt hard to breathe. Jaehyun brought side dishes and rang Yuna's doorbell. He knew Yuna would come home very late that day. Still, he wanted to see Soyeon. Soyeon did not react much. She simply walked into the kitchen and asked if Jaehyun wanted red date tea. Jaehyun lied and said it was his favorite thing in the world. Unexpectedly, Soyeon answered, "That is the taste I hate most in the world." "Good thing you're here. Now I can get rid of it faster." Yuna happened to run into Minju and Juwon on her way home. Minju warmly held her hand. She said Jaehyun had just taken side dishes to Yuna's house. She also said that next time, Yuna and Jaehyun should come to the restaurant together to eat. Yuna smiled and agreed, but she wondered why Jaehyun had gone to her house, since only Soyeon was home. Yuna worried Soyeon might give him a hard time. Thinking of that, Yuna called Jaehyun right away. Jaehyun answered and said he had already gotten home. After hearing that, Yuna went straight to Jaehyun's house. She asked in confusion if Soyeon had given him a hard time. Then Yuna walked toward the sofa. There, she noticed a brochure for an architecture program. Jaehyun explained that a professor he really liked was teaching there, so he had just been curious and taken a look. Yuna encouraged him. She said studying architecture would be good. Jaehyun had always drawn buildings, and learning architecture could help his work. But Jaehyun shook his head and sighed. He said drawing alone had already exhausted him. Continuing to study would not make him happier. Yuna smiled and tried to reassure him. She said one college diploma was already enough. Why make himself suffer for another degree? But Jaehyun answered calmly, "I never graduated from any university." Yuna was shocked. Back then, Jaehyun had clearly gone to school for years. So, how could he say now that he had never graduated? But Jaehyun only answered lightly, "You know I wasn't very interested in going to university back then. I went to school because of you. You also know I've hated school the most since long ago." That answer pulled Yuna straight back to why she had broken up with him. That day, Yuna had accidentally overheard a conversation between Jaehyun and his teacher. She had thought Jaehyun refused to study abroad because of her. Only now did Yuna realize that it had actually been Jaehyun's own choice. Not long after, Yuna changed the subject. She asked what Jaehyun and Soyeon had talked about earlier. If Soyeon had said something she should not have said, Yuna hoped Jaehyun would not take it to heart. Then Jaehyun suddenly asked Yuna why she had broken up with him back then. The question dragged Yuna back to the past she least wanted to face. She had not grown up in a complete family. She had only had her grandmother to rely on. Poverty had taught her early on to protect herself by acting cold. It had also made her more and more afraid to accept kindness from other people. After she became an adult, debt, part-time jobs, and job interviews all crashed into her life at once. Countless times, she practiced breaking up in front of the mirror. Each time, she cried so hard that she could not say the words properly. In the end, she hid her insecurity inside a hard shell. Then she let go of the person she loved most. After the breakup, Yuna buried herself in part-time jobs and debt payments. She forced herself forward by telling herself that time would pass. But one night, a drunk Jaehyun called her late. He demanded the real reason behind the breakup. If she did not say it, Jaehyun would blame himself for everything. He would think he deserved to be left behind. Yuna could only tell him that her life had been so hard at the time that she did not even have 1 minute to rest. She did not want Jaehyun to love her by carrying her hardship too, but drunk Jaehyun would rather hear her say she hated him. He could not accept that kind of reason. Yuna guessed Jaehyun later did not remember that phone call at all. Now Jaehyun asked again. He said that in the past, they had fought, broken up, and gotten back together. Even then, he had believed their relationship would never truly end. But that time, Yuna's eyes had looked too firm. so he had always wanted to know the real reason. Yuna only admitted that she had been too tired at the time. She had been working part-time while going to interviews. After saying that, she quickly pulled the conversation back to the present. She said that since they had already gotten back together, that was enough. Then she quickly stood up and left. Jaehyun could see that she did not want to talk anymore. He could only tell her to get home safely. Before she left, he quietly turned on every light in the yard for her. After Yuna returned home, she smiled and lay down beside Soyeon. She hugged Soyeon tightly. Half asleep, Soyeon asked whether Yuna had eaten dinner. When Yuna stayed quiet, Soyeon asked with concern whether something had happened. Yuna smiled and answered that nothing had happened. But Soyeon told Yuna that Jaehyun had come over that day. She also said she had not been the one to call him. Soyeon asked whether the breakup back then had happened because Yuna's family situation was difficult. Was it because Yuna had to carry everything by herself, so she deliberately pushed Jaehyun away? Yuna hurriedly denied it, but Soyeon had already seen through her. A few hours earlier, Soyeon had asked Jaehyun whether he truly liked Yuna. Jaehyun smiled and admitted it. He said he liked Yuna far more than Soyeon could imagine. After hearing this, Soyeon finally smiled. She did not ask Jaehyun to do anything great. She only hoped he would stay by Yuna's side for a long time. Ever since Yuna was young, she had never had a complete family. Very few people had stayed by her side. She had carried almost all of her pain alone. Jaehyun nodded seriously. He promised that he would always stay with Yuna. After that, Jaehyun hesitated and asked Soyeon whether something had happened in Yuna's family before. Now, Soyeon held Yuna and gently patted her back. At his place, Jaehyun kept looking out the window. He thought about everything he had heard that day. A few days later, the first episode of Yuna and Jaehyun's documentary aired. It received very good ratings. Yoojun excitedly showed the results to Doyeon, but Doyeon's attitude remained cold. Jaehyun walked Yuna to the bus stop as usual. Unexpectedly, they ran into a group of female students. The girls had all seen the documentary, and they were already fans of Yuna and Jaehyun. One of them asked why Jaehyun and Yuna looked like they disliked each other so much in the film, but seemed so close in real life. Was it true that the more people claimed to hate something, the more fate pushed them toward it? While Jaehyun was surrounded by fans asking for photos, Yuna slipped onto the bus. Then she hurried to the company. At work, her co-workers were gathered together watching the documentary. Yuna quietly walked over. She stood behind them and stared. She heard them discussing how Yuna and Jaehyun fought every day as naturally as eating meals. Yuna spoke up and interrupted them. Then she set a new rule. Starting today, no one was allowed to watch the documentary during work hours at the company. They were also not allowed to mention the documentary. Jaemin walked in and asked why his interview footage had been cut. Yuna interrupted him seriously. She asked whether everyone had plans that night. Everyone thought Yuna was about to suggest working overtime. They immediately said they were ready to work overtime. But Yuna only said she wanted to treat her co-workers to a meal. That made everyone look at each other in surprise. Then they all nodded together. They said they were very free and were really looking forward to eating with Yuna. After all, Yuna had never taken the initiative to do something like that before. Since the documentary was doing well, Jaehyun received many invitations from reality shows. But since he had a solo exhibition coming up, he asked Taeho to reject all of them. Taeho added that some invitations were for both Jaehyun and Yuna. After hearing that, Jaehyun said any invitation involving Yuna had to be discussed with her first. Taeho sighed helplessly. He said this was exactly why he did not want to date. Dating always gave someone else a hand on the steering wheel of your life. That comment made Jaehyun start doubting himself. He asked Taeho if he looked like someone who had completely lost himself. Taeho joked that Jaehyun had been hopeless for a long time, but he also told Jaehyun seriously that an irresponsible person could not have made it this far in only 5 years. In Taeho's eyes, Jaehyun was simply too hard on himself. Besides, Taeho had already given his entire youth to Jaehyun. He had also seen for himself how impressive Jaehyun was at work. After hearing this, Jaehyun only sighed and said nothing. Later, another director praised Doyeon's documentary. During their conversation, the director also mentioned the documentary he was making for idol Soojin's 10th debut anniversary. He said he did not understand what was going on with Soojin. The title was supposed to celebrate her 10th anniversary, but her content ideas sounded more like they came from a singer preparing to announce her retirement. When Doyeon heard that Soojin would be going to the recording studio that day, he became curious and went to take a look. In the recording studio, Soojin was recording narration for her 10th anniversary documentary. The script said that when she liked someone, she would want to share beautiful scenery and delicious food with friends. As Soojin read, she suddenly stopped. She frankly said the line was not true because she had no friends to begin with. The director had no choice but to temporarily change friends to family. Afterward, Soojin saw Doyeon leaving the recording studio. She chased after him. She sat across from Doyeon and asked what he thought about when he ate alone. Doyeon answered seriously that he only thought about how to divide the rice and side dishes evenly. That made Soojin laugh. It also made her speak more honestly about why she had no friends. She had worked as an entertainer since she was young. She had almost no chance to live like an ordinary person. The people she met at work were hard to turn into real friends. Outside of work, she had no time to manage relationships. Over time, she simply stopped trying to make friends. Doyeon advised her that if she wanted to live like an ordinary person, she should start by pretending to be ordinary. If she was determined enough, maybe pretending long enough could slowly become real. Before giving up completely, she should at least try once. Soojin smiled after hearing this. She said it had been like this last time, and it was like this again now. Doyeon's comforting words always came at the right time. Soojin asked curiously, "Is your situation the same as mine?" Doyeon joked, "Are you talking about the situation where you collect rent every month and I receive a salary?" That made Soojin laugh happily. Then Soojin cautiously tested the waters and asked if he knew how Inha had been lately. Doyeon asked why she did not ask Jaehyun herself. Soojin answered helplessly, "I don't plan to disturb him. You know that too. If I don't contact him, he'll stay quiet forever. As soon as I let go, this relationship will end." But Doyeon only said he had not seen Jaehyun recently. Then he said goodbye to Soojin and returned to the editing room. After dinner with her co-workers, Yuna went home. She received a call from Jaehyun. Jaehyun said he really wanted to pick her up, but he remembered she had said before that she did not like being picked up, so he had not gone. In the past, Yuna always said she could go home by herself. She had also felt it would be awkward in front of her co-workers. If they knew, they would think she could not handle things on her own. Yuna smiled and sighed. She had not expected Jaehyun to remember every tiny thing she had once said. She explained, "I said that on purpose back then, because I didn't want to take up your time. And taking taxis to pick me up and take me home cost a lot of money." Hearing this, Jaehyun asked, "So you don't hate being picked up and dropped off, right?" After Yuna smiled and confirmed it, Jaehyun said, "Then look behind you. Next time, you need to tell me earlier, okay? If you don't say anything, I'll be like an idiot and know nothing." Yuna stood there, staring at Jaehyun in a daze. Still, Jaehyun knew he did not yet know why they had broken up back then. But he believed Yuna would tell him one day. He would wait patiently for that day. Once he knew the reason, he would do everything he could to make sure the past did not happen again. He decided this would be his only goal. For the rest of his life, he would stay by Yuna's side. When Yuna got home, she packed her things and stopped by Soyeon's room. While collecting Soyeon's clothes for the wash, Yuna found a nursing home brochure. Yuna froze. Jaehyun was also looking through a school brochure of his own. He was trying to find a way to study architecture in France. The next morning, Yuna filled the table with food for Soyeon. She suggested that they travel together, eat good food, and buy pretty clothes. Yuna told Soyeon to keep living with her and not leave. When Soyeon's eyes turned red, Yuna carefully asked if she hated living there. When Soyeon said no, Yuna finally looked able to breathe again. Yuna asked Soyeon to stay with her. She did not want to live alone anymore. When Doyeon returned home, he saw Gun again. She had rarely cared about his work before, but this time she asked him to film a documentary for her before it was too late. Her request pulled Doyeon back to the nights when he had waited for his mother to come home, only to be met with distance and neglect. He had never understood ordinary family warmth until he met Jaehyun's family. Later, when Gun once said that her life would not have been so miserable without him, Doyeon began to believe that the home he wanted had only been a cage to her. From then on, he stopped hoping for a complete family. While Jaehyun was waiting at a red light, he noticed a jewelry store. The sight brought back a memory from 10 years earlier. Yuna had once told Jaehyun that he did not need to buy anniversary gifts. She said anniversaries were just a business tactic. They were a capitalist habit created to make people spend money. Only recently did Jaehyun realize Yuna had said that because she had been worried about his wallet. This time, Jaehyun quietly decided to do it right. Jaehyun walked into the jewelry store and said he wanted to buy a gift for Yuna. The clerk asked what style Yuna liked. Jaehyun answered, "A very pretty style." The clerk smiled awkwardly and explained that she meant Yuna's usual style. Jaehyun finally said that Yuna was neat and elegant. Jaehyun went home with the gift soon after. As soon as he walked in, he froze. Yuna was sleeping soundly on his sofa. Jaehyun walked closer, took out the gift, and tried to put it around Yuna's neck. Just then, Yuna woke up and asked what he was doing. Jaehyun smiled and said, "I was going to put a bell on the cat." Yuna sat up happily and let Jaehyun put it on her. Jaehyun quickly made up an excuse, saying he only went in because the store was having a sale. He said he bought it casually and did not expect it to look better on her than on him. Yuna touched the necklace carefully and said it was truly beautiful. Jaehyun stopped pretending and told her the truth. He said he had bought the necklace at full price and spent a whole hour choosing it carefully. He had also bought her earrings. Yuna smiled as she put them on and said she loved them. She hugged her boyfriend tightly and said softly, "Let's just stay home today and not go out, okay?" Jaehyun nodded and joked that staying home was what he did best. Yuna and Jaehyun spent a quiet, sweet day at home, reading, cooking, drawing, and watching shows like an ordinary couple. They even talked about the vague period when they had called themselves friends, and Yuna admitted she had been flirting with him on purpose. Yuna looked more relaxed than she had in a long time, and Jaehyun felt a rare calm beside her. Later, when Yuna asked him to dry her hair, she smiled and said it felt peaceful, but that peace also made her anxious. She was afraid she was not good at being this happy, and that she might ruin everything. Jaehyun seemed to want to say something, but he held back, his eyes drifting toward the admission information for the architecture school. Later, as Jaehyun prepared for his nighttime exhibition, Taeho teased him for being hopelessly devoted to Yuna. Jaehyun sent Yuna a picture of the flyer and said she would come on the last day because she did not want the documentary's attention to distract from his exhibition. Jaehyun also seemed to have something important to tell her, but he decided to wait until the exhibition ended. After learning that Gun was seriously ill, Doyeon kept using work as an excuse not to go home. Haeyeon could see that he was hurting, but she did not know how to comfort him. Hyejin mentioned that when Doyeon was an intern, Yoojun had also taken care of him in his own clumsy way. Yoojun had taught him that documentaries were not only for recording big, lively events, they also preserved ordinary moments that were easy to overlook. Those words made Doyeon realize he might not be able to avoid Gun forever. Jaehyun's exhibition opened to visitors. Surprisingly, many guests came despite the late hour. The exhibition also received praise from the media. Yuna was proud of Jaehyun. Soon, Jaehyun called her. The exhibition was more successful than expected, and that made him a little uneasy. Jaehyun told Yuna that he only wanted to finish his work as soon as possible. He wanted to go home and lie down with her for a whole day, because he had to do an interview. Jaehyun quickly said goodbye to Yuna. He also reminded her to come see his paintings on the last day. A few days later, Yuna was working as usual. She was inspecting the area for the next event with her co-workers. After work, the three of them sat down to talk. One co-worker mentioned that today was the last day of Inha's exhibition. Another co-worker said he had gone with his girlfriend yesterday. He had to admit that the exhibition was done very well. The first co-worker became envious. He planned to invite a female co-worker from the company to go with him. Yuna suddenly saw two students messing around near the bookshelf. The scene reminded her of herself and Jaehyun back in school. Yuna showed a bright smile. The two co-workers asked in confusion, "Has Yuna been dating lately? You seem much gentler than before." Yuna sighed and did not answer. Before leaving, Yuna suddenly told her co-workers that they had to go see the exhibition. Today is the last day. Only then did the two co-workers understand. Yuna's boyfriend was Inha. Haeyeon had been watching Doyeon for several days. Finally, Haeyeon walked over to his table in frustration and asked if he was sad because Yuna had rejected him. If that was the case, he should only be sad for a few days. How could he let the pain drag on like this? Doyeon smiled and said that after Haeyeon's reminder, he now knew he was apparently going through heartbreak. Haeyeon was confused by his answer. If it was not heartbreak, then what had happened? Why had Doyeon locked himself in the editing room and refused to go home? Doyeon gave her a simple answer. "I hate going home." Then he joked that Haeyeon should not become as strange as him. Haeyeon did not argue back. She simply sat beside him and stayed with him until they finished dinner. At the exhibition, Jaehyun stood alone and checked his watch from time to time. He still had not seen Yuna. On the final night, Jaehyun kept waiting for Yuna. Instead, Sujin unexpectedly arrived. Sujin could tell who he was really waiting for. She pretended to be relaxed, joked with him, and praised his work. She also bought a ticket to the exhibition as her own way to say goodbye and offer her blessing. Jaehyun accepted her kindness. The unresolved feelings between them quietly settled, and they returned to being friends. Soon, Taeho ran over to tell Jaehyun that the exhibition was almost over. Jaehyun became very worried. Yuna still had not appeared. Another guest arrived. This time it was Sion. He said the idea of holding an exhibition so late at night was fresh. He said Jaehyun's paintings were beautiful, but there was still no progress at all. Jaehyun smiled and said he had no time to play with him. He told Sion to go home and read the articles if he wanted to know anything. Sion brought up the plagiarism incident again and forced Jaehyun to respond directly. Jaehyun said coldly that he did not care. That made Sion even angrier. He admitted that he had indeed copied Jaehyun's paintings. Back when they had been classmates, Sion had already been jealous of Jaehyun. Jaehyun never fought for anything, yet he seemed to have everything. In Sion's eyes, Jaehyun's indifference made people who worked desperately hard feel defeated. Jaehyun asked him whether that so-called hard work meant stealing someone else's paintings. Sion kept attacking him. He said he only wanted to see how Jaehyun would react when something he loved was taken away. But Jaehyun still did not fall apart. That made Sion think he was even more pitiful. He mocked Jaehyun, saying his life looked easy to throw away because there was nothing inside it. Those words hit Jaehyun hard. Taeho stepped in, furious, and cursed Sion as a thief, calling someone else a thief. But Sion acted as if he did not care. He continued attacking Jaehyun. He said he was tired of looking at Jaehyun's paintings because they were completely hollow and had no soul. With that, Sion left. Jaehyun stayed there, trapped in his own thoughts. Yuna missed the exhibition because she was at the hospital taking care of Soyeon. After Soyeon opened her eyes, she asked Yuna why she was still there so late. Soyeon told Yuna not to worry about her and to let her sleep a little longer. At her age, everyone had some kind of illness. Yuna cried and asked if Soyeon was doing this on purpose so she could leave her sooner. Soyeon comforted Yuna and said she would live for a long time. Even if the Grim Reaper came to pick her up, Soyeon would stay and refuse to go. But if that terrible day truly came, Soyeon would have no choice but to leave Yuna behind. When that time came, Yuna still had to live well. She had to eat 3 meals a day and do the things she wanted to do. If Yuna lived the way Soyeon had lived, then to Soyeon, that would feel like punishment. So Yuna had to try to meet more people. She had to do what she wanted and enjoy life happily. Only then could Soyeon face Yuna's parents after she died. Yuna could only sob while she listened. Back at the exhibition hall, Jaehyun was still waiting for Yuna. When Yuna still did not answer his calls, Jaehyun grew even more worried. A call came in from Doyeon. Doyeon asked him to meet at a small roadside restaurant. After a few drinks, Jaehyun complained to Doyeon. His exhibition had been open until that day, so why had Doyeon not come even once? Doyeon explained that he had been too busy lately. Jaehyun smiled and asked if Doyeon suddenly had time now. Doyeon said he had even finished next week's work. After a pause, he smiled faintly and said his mother was dying. The smile on Jaehyun's face disappeared. Doyeon kept asking why he did not feel sad at all. Jaehyun's chest tightened. All he could say was that the two of them were both a little pitiful. After Yuna finished taking care of Soyeon, she called Jaehyun to explain. But the phone rang many times, and Jaehyun did not answer. Around the same time, Gun stood outside the TV station and looked at the building from a distance. Yoojun saw Gun wandering around and stopped to ask whether she needed help. Since Yuna still could not reach Jaehyun by phone, she went to his front door. She sat alone in the snow and waited for him. He ran to her and asked why she was sitting there. Yuna broke down. She cried and apologized, saying she thought she had ruined everything. Jaehyun calmly told her that she had not ruined anything. No matter what, he would be there with her. Yuna tightly grabbed his sleeve and admitted that she was really tired. Taeho went to Nahue's shop with a very serious expression. After Nahue kept pressing him, Taeho finally said that a famous critic had sharply criticized Jaehyun's paintings. Nahue could not understand it at all because she thought all those paintings were beautiful. A few hours earlier, Jaehyun had read an article by a certain art critic. The critic asked how long Inha planned to stay trapped in his own world. The article said Inha's paintings were technically perfect, but it also said they showed the childishness of someone forever trapped in his own world. After Cyan's attack, Jaehyun could not help feeling guilty. He started to believe that maybe his life really was pitiful. Since childhood, he had never had to worry about material things. Jaehyun's biggest wish had only been to lie in the sunlight during the day and under the lights at night. In school, he had always been near the bottom. Even drawing was only a hobby to him. Life had left Jaehyun with almost no ambition. Ever since he was young, he had felt as if he was only borrowing someone else's life. So all he could do was live quietly and properly. Sometimes, Jaehyun also vaguely sensed the figure of a man following behind him. Although he knew who that person was, he still pretended he had a perfect family. He played the role of a son surrounded by love. That act let Jaehyun pretend to be ignorant and unconcerned about everything. Over time, the act lasted so long that Jaehyun became trapped in that hollow life. Standing in front of Yuna again, Jaehyun no longer hesitated. He took out the brochure for the school in France and told her he wanted her to go with him. Jaehyun knew that his past life had been a mess, so he wanted to build his own life from scratch. But to do that, he needed Yuna beside him. Yuna did not answer right away. She asked him to give her some time to think carefully. For the first time, Jaehyun truly wanted something for himself. The next day, Yuna also received an invitation from Taeyun. He wanted to invite her to Paris to build a new team with him. It was a very good opportunity, and Yuna was caught off guard. Jaemin did not want to hold back someone as talented as Yuna. He also advised her to seize the chance. He had always known how hard Yuna had worked and how difficult her life had been. Now, it was time for Yuna to receive what she had earned. When Taeho learned that Jaehyun was preparing to go to France, he understood something for the first time. He could not keep revolving his life around Jaehyun. Sujin also supported Jaehyun's work as a true fan. She accepted that Yuna was the person who would walk into Jaehyun's new life with him. Yuna kept asking Soyeon whether Soyeon could live without her. Soyeon immediately answered that she would be completely fine. Even if Soyeon lived alone, she had many things she could do with her old friends. But Yuna was still worried. What if Soyeon fainted again, like last time? Soyeon reassured her. As long as Soyeon took her blood pressure medicine regularly, she would be fine. So Yuna should stop worrying about Soyeon and go live the life she wanted. Doyeon had a choice of his own to make. He did not know whether he should film that documentary for Gun. Seeing Doyeon hesitate, Yoojun advised him to film Gun's documentary while there was still time. Even if those memories were unpleasant, Doyeon could never truly escape them for the rest of his life. Yoojun said someone who always carried a camera could not end up without even one photo of his mother. Yoojun himself only had one strange group photo left. Whenever he thought of his mother, he could only take that photo out and look at it. So he hoped Doyeon would not miss the last thing still within reach. A few days later, Yuna stood in front of Jaemin and told him her choice. After hearing her answer, Jaemin only sighed and said he understood her decision. Jaehyun went to his family's snack shop. Minju looked seriously at her son and joked, "What brings my son, who has been so busy dating, all the way here today?" Jaehyun smiled and said he just wanted to eat the food Minju made. Minju looked at her son for a long time and wondered when he had grown this big. Jaehyun looked deeply into his mother's eyes. Then, timidly, Jaehyun asked Minju whether she had already known that he knew about his birth. After Minju nodded, Jaehyun carefully asked if nothing would change because of it. Minju told him that their Jaehyun had always been her son. She thanked Jaehyun for becoming their son. She also thanked him for growing up healthy. Hearing that, Jaehyun finally let go of the burden he had carried for half his life. Through tears, he admitted that he had always been afraid of being different from his parents. He was also afraid he could not become a person as good as his parents were. He had always worried that something was wrong with him. He had worried that he would disappoint them. Minju told him that from the moment she first held Jaehyun in her arms, she and Juwon had never once been disappointed in him. Minju loved every version of Jaehyun, from childhood until now. Then mother and son wiped away their tears together and smiled. Later, Yuna asked Jaehyun to meet her at Nahue's shop. Jaehyun warmed Yuna's hands and asked whether she had made her final decision. Yuna smiled and nodded. After choosing to listen to Soyeon and follow her own heart, Yuna realized that what she wanted had not changed. Yuna used to think she had been alone, but when she looked back, she realized she had never made it this far by herself. Soyeon had always loved her. Nahue had always supported her from behind. Jaemin had put almost everything he had on the line for her. just to bring her into his startup company. Her coworkers had also supported her and trusted her again and again through their work. She once thought her life was boring and miserable, but when she finally looked back seriously, she saw that many precious things had happened along the way. So, when Yuna stood in front of Jaehyun, she refused to go to France with him. She said this was the first time she had begun to like her own life. It was also the first time she had clearly seen the path she had walked. She wanted to live like this for a while longer. In the past, she had thought she was only forced to live that way. Now she understood that maybe this was the life she truly wanted. She wanted to pause, look at the present, and then keep moving forward. Jaehyun heard her answer and only nodded calmly. He said he did not know how long it would take him to become someone good enough for Yuna. Yuna's strength and excellence went far beyond what he had imagined. But he told Yuna not to worry. Now, he knew what he truly wanted. He also knew what kind of person he wanted to become, so he would go to France. When Yuna heard that, she held Jaehyun's hand and encouraged him. She said they would be all right. Jaehyun also promised that he would finish it properly. He only hoped she would wait for the day he came back after making it. At the hospital, Doyeon looked at Gun and asked why she had suddenly come back wanting closeness after half a lifetime of distance. At first, Gun said she did not want to leave no trace behind, but when Doyeon pressed her, she finally admitted that she had once been trapped by negative emotions and feared passing her unhappiness onto him. The better Doyeon was as a child, the more afraid she became of dragging him into her pain, so she could not hold him close. Doyeon said he could never forgive her for treating her child that way, or appearing only when she was about to die. But he still asked her to live a little longer, because maybe one day they could try to live like ordinary people. After Jaehyun decided to study in France, Juwon fought it for a while. Taeho also wrote a long, wounded letter. Doyeon also moved from behind the camera to in front of it. He began filming his mother's story. He remembered the time Gun had once held his hand and taken him to eat spicy rice cakes. Sujin's 10th anniversary documentary also aired. She no longer maintained a pleasing, perfect image. Instead, she honestly said what she really thought, and received even more support. Jaehyun and Yuna's love remained happy. Whenever they were not busy, the two of them still liked to stay close and never be apart for long. Still, the day they had both been avoiding finally arrived. Jaehyun was leaving to study abroad. On the way to the airport, Juwon kept pretending to find excuses to delay the trip, still unable to let Jaehyun go. Jaehyun smiled through it, then said there was one place he had to visit before leaving. Juwon understood and let him go. Before leaving to begin a new life, Jaehyun wanted to formally say goodbye to his past. The place he went was where his biological father worked. This time, Jaehyun did not want to deny the past anymore. He calmly faced that man's gaze. Then he turned and left, as if putting the past behind him. After Jaehyun left to study abroad, Yuna kept saying she was rational about love. But every time she got drunk, she cried loudly in Nahue's shop. When she was sober, Yuna would video call Jaehyun and tell him how to deal with girls who suddenly approached him. Yuna's work life also got better day by day. The company hired more employees, and the work began to run more smoothly. Still, life could not always be smooth. Jaehyun and Yuna still occasionally had arguments and awkward moments. But every time, they made up quickly and loved each other even more. Love was not something you could keep hidden forever. One day, Jaehyun finally said something he had never said until then. He said he loved Yuna. When Yuna heard that, she almost cried. The words were simple, but Jaehyun had never said them to her before. Yuna called him an idiot. Since he had decided to say it, he should say it to her face. Jaehyun smiled and told her to turn around. Yuna turned her head stiffly. That was when she saw Jaehyun running toward her. He told her again in person, "Yuna, I love you." Yuna broke into tears. Jaehyun pulled her tightly into his arms. Jaehyun softly admitted that long-distance love was more tiring than he had imagined. He could not keep living like that. Even in that romantic moment, Yuna began nagging him. She said that since he found it so hard, he should study seriously. If he kept going back and forth like this, how long would it take before he could truly return to her side? Jaehyun smiled as he looked at Yuna. Then he gently kissed her, making up for all the time he had missed. 2 years later, the people around them had also found their own place. Taeho still often went to Nahue's shop to help. He finally worked up the courage to confess to Nahue. Haeun no longer hid her feelings the way Doyeon did. She openly said that she liked him. Everyone was slowly moving forward in their own way. After returning from studying abroad, Jaehyun was helping his parents at a charity event. When Doyeon asked whether his insomnia had come back, Jaehyun proudly said he had slept for a full 10 hours, longer than pork needed to marinate. Yoona walked in to help Jaehyun's family arrange books. As they worked side by side, the scene felt almost like high school again. Jaehyun teased her about whether she had fallen for him at first sight, and Yoona teased him back. Then Yoona noticed he had been distracted by a book in his hand. When she opened it, she found a photo from her first-year high school entrance ceremony. Jaehyun held her hand and sincerely proposed. Later, Jaehyun and Yoona became husband and wife. The two of them were planning to plant a tree in the yard when Doyeon came to their door again. He said the audience wanted to see a documentary about their life after marriage. Jaehyun and Yoona immediately panicked. They protested that they needed private space too. In the end, the two of them still ended up sitting in front of the camera. With shy smiles, they admitted they were already husband and wife.